So we have an exciting agenda packed for you today. I'm going to do a quick overview, tell you a little bit about TC BANDD, and then I'm going to hand it off to an amazing leader who's going to take us through a workshop. We have a poem from one of our favorite speakers here at TC BANDD. You're going to have breakout sessions, or you get to dive into your professional development even more. We'll have some lunch. Excited to feed our souls and our minds and our bellies today. And then we'll wrap up with a closing keynote and some wrap-up conversation, and we'll have time for networking at the end. So if you're able to stay, we'd love to have you as we continue to build community and connection. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit of background on TC BANDD. There's a lot of words on this slide. I'm going to summarize it, but I'm also going to read so I don't get in trouble for getting it wrong. But TC BANDD was founded in 2013 by Eric Alexander as the incoming president at the General Mills Black Champions Network. This organization was created to provide a safe forum for Black, African, and African-American professionals to leverage their combined scale and the compounding impact of working together to deliver value to members in the community. This is done mainly through semi-annual events such as these, but we also supplement it with events throughout the year, shorter moments for professional development. Through the expertise of our volunteer board, I'm gonna say it again, volunteer, and the generosity of our pro bono speakers, the support of our sponsor organizations, we're able to keep our events free for individual attendees. So cost will never be a barrier for development and access to development here at TC BANDD. You can hit the next slide. So our values here are to deliver quality professional development, build cross-organizational connection and community connections, and create a safe space for members to learn, share, and grow together. And these are just some of our results over the past few years. You can go to the next one. So we've had 99 development sessions since the start of TC BANDD. We reached over 3,000 attendees, 11,000 hours of development. Hit the next slide. We are touching, our events are, back one. Roll with me. Back one more. Yeah, so these are just some of our results since 2013. Our events are also available on YouTube. So we record our events, we make sure they're available and accessible if you're unable to attend in person. So if you go on YouTube and search for TC BANDD, you'll see some of our previous events as well. So why we're different? What sets us apart? So you don't need to be an employee of a larger public company to participate in TC BANDD events. You don't need to be on an executive track or have an advanced degree. You don't have to pay a fee to attend. You don't have to feel isolated or alone. Look around you. You have community. You have people who are here and looking for the same thing as you. Make sure you're making those connections throughout. At these events, you can be honest, transparent, safe, be a non-Black and of a Black ERG or an ally, be self-employed or a consultant, bring your whole self. And I'm going to pause here for a second because I'm DEI, so I got to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. But when we talk about bringing our whole self, we want to make sure that even within, as we think about who we are as Black employees and Black professionals, we are also intersectional. We need to make sure we're creating a space for all parts of our identities here. So whether you are Black from the Caribbean or African-American or from Africa or Hispanic, Latino, or Asian, if you are transgender, non-binary, cisgendered, if you are gay, bisexual, whatever your identity is, no matter your ability, no matter your religion, you are welcome here, and you have a space to find community. And that's not just what we're gonna do. I'm asking you all to participate in that as well, and respecting each other, creating safe spaces, and letting everybody bring their whole selves here. So can we do that? Can I get some commitment around? All right. But lastly, we're also gonna have fun, we're gonna learn, and we're gonna expand our network. Again, I'm gonna keep plugging network, connection. Not just the folks that are up here speaking today, but get to know the folks at your table, the folks at other tables, so that you can continue to build this community. All right. This is the slide I was looking for before, but so in addition to all of the events and hours that we put together, we are touching more than 75 organizations across the US. So we have registrants from all over. Thank you. In addition to that, we are in 15 states and actually 3 countries. So US, shout out to the folks in Canada, UK that registered as well. So 15 states and 3 countries. So some amazing reach. And I also want to pause and thank some key folks. So if you are on the TC Band board, I'm going to ask you to stand up real quick. So remember earlier I said volunteers. Volunteers. So just a quick moment of recognition for these amazing folks who are helping organize, plan, put together these events. Stop us, get to know us, ask us questions. We love to engage and meet new people, but tons of recognition to the folks that help bring these moments together. Next, I want to recognize our core sponsors. So while we touch 75 organizations, we have a core group of sponsor organizations that help bring these to life. So between General Mills, Wells Fargo, Best Buy, Cargill, and US Bank, and then of course, today's event sponsor, Target. I also want to thank today's speakers. They're giving us the greatest gift, their time. They're coming here to provide free development for you all. So make sure you value that. You're taking notes, you're asking questions, you're walking up to them and introducing yourselves. These speakers came today on a Saturday morning to give y'all free development. So let's give a round of applause for our speakers for today. And then lastly, some of our additional partners that help this come to life, whether it's through advertising, funding, et cetera. We have initial partners throughout the Minneapolis area that also help us bring these events to life. All right. So this is the last slide, I swear, and then I'm going to get out of the way and let us get into the good stuff. But we ask that you all engage today. Whether you're taking pictures, posting quotes, make sure you're tagging us on social media, use the hashtag below. I'm going to model that real quick. So we're going to take a quick selfie. All right. Let's see if, there we go. So I need everybody, put up a hand, do something. All right. Do it for the gram. All right. So we are excited to get started today. So next up, we have Chris Thibodeaux, who's the owner and founder of the Career Fitness Center. Chris opened the Career Fitness Center as an accessible, convenient, affordable, and relatable platform for career development to a wide range of people. And today's session will be a comprehensive and interactive workshop that applies the fundamentals of fitness to help attendees develop skills, strategies, and frameworks to better understand and achieve their career goals. So welcome, Chris.
All right, thank you. All right, can you guys hear me? Testing, 1, good. All right, good morning, everyone. How we doing? I'm not a quiet person. So good morning, everyone. All right. Now, I just want you to know, they told me I have to stand in this little square because I can't move. So this is like trapping because I'm like, okay, I can't go over there. All right, so I'm standing here. Hello to everybody on Zoom and all the areas. So I am so excited to be here for a couple of reasons. One is this. This is an opportunity for you to get in shape. And I'm not, you want to do some squats while we're talking, feel free. But I'm talking about your career. And the reason why that's important, let's see, we're kicking. All right, is the Career Fitness Center. I opened this just like a gym. How many people belong to LA Fitness or Lifetime? All right, okay, put your hands up. How many of you go to it? No, don't put your hand up. No, don't put your hand up. Don't put your hand up. All right, but the Career Fitness Center, I created this like a gym, but for your career. So what it is, it's an online platform where you can go in 24 hours a day. And what I've done is I've created small video vignettes for 3 to 5 minutes. I feel like we're in a restaurant. It's about to get good. No, but the videos are 3 to 5 minutes because not everyone could afford an executive trainer. Not everyone can afford an executive coach. So what I did is I created this platform so that you can put a coach in your pocket. It'll be me, and I'm with you every step of the way. And you can Google things inside it, like, it's time for a raise. I give you tips and points of how to have that conversation with your boss. My #1 video is, I hate my boss. Don't click on it when your boss is around. Some of my clients are United Health Group, NFL, I have professional athletes, I have CEOs, CFOs, but I'm here today because I honestly started this for you. Because in my 23, 24-year career, I was a drug dealer for a long time. My dad was a pastor, he did not like that. I sold drugs through pharmaceutical companies. Y'all stop judging me. Stop judging me. I saw people, I'm out. He's, goodness, stay with it, brother. But I did. I was in pharma for over 23 years or so. I was a rep. I was a manager of 10 or 12 people. I started managing hundreds of people. I started managing from North Dakota to Puerto Rico. And then I started managing the entire US with multi-tiered levels of people, reporting directly to the board and to the CEO. When they say at the beginning of the year, here's the number, I have to find a way to hit it by the end of the year. And in that time, what I enjoyed the most was winning awards and hitting numbers, but it was the development. It was helping people really figure out, how do I do this? What's my career? And when people started asking me, like, how are you moving up? How are you getting these opportunities? And I started to share some of that information. So about 6 years ago, I left corporate, launched the Career Fitness Center, and doing the work that I'm doing now. 17 years at least in management, 11 or so director level and above. Do a lot of motivational speaking and all that good stuff. Okay, so with that behind us, the first section I want to talk about is this. Get on the scale or check the mirror. So we're here to talk about your career fitness. One of the most important things you have to do is be honest. So I don't know about anybody in here, but have you ever like had 2 salads, worked out for a couple of days, and then you in the mirror like, I look, this should be. Now, you know you haven't been working out for months. Anybody post-pandemic come out, nothing fit? Was that just me? You know when you got dressed up to go back to work, it was like, this don't work. Wait a minute. So what can happen is if you're not being real with yourself, we really can't figure out where you're starting from. So the first thing this morning I want you to think about is, where are you in your career? Where are you? And I'm going to help you figure that out, because the reality is this. If you think more highly of yourself than your manager, boss, supervisor, it doesn't work. What I tell people is I used to knock on doors trying to prove myself to get jobs. Like, can I get this opportunity? Can I get this opportunity? What I found out over time was to position myself for people to knock on my door. Chris, have you ever thought about moving to this division? I have not. The difference was when you're fighting to get in a position, you walk in the door having to prove yourself. I've been there. No, I can do it. I know I don't really have the skills for it. I know it's going to be a stretch. So I come in the job under stress. But when I've got the opportunities and they said, Chris, we really think you're the right person, then I come and go, well, I'm going to see what I can do for y'all. Yeah, I think this is good. You see the difference? A lot of it had to do with me being honest, though, where my career was. I'm going to tell you something. I have turned down jobs. Say less, Chris. I have turned down opportunities, CEO roles. Let me break this down. It is real cool to go on LinkedIn and change your profile and everybody hits you up. What? You doing it? You not clap, clap, thumbs up. You know good and well, you looking to see if somebody did something, right? But has anybody ever bought a car and you drove it off the lot and everybody talks how great it is, you're cute, and you drive in. It's when that first payment comes, you're like, oh my God. And this is gonna keep coming every month, what? It's the same thing with these jobs and these opportunities. You get them, you get the corner office, but after 2 or 3 meetings, then you start realizing this is work. So I have actually said to people, I don't think it's the right opportunity for right now. I don't think it's the thing I need to do right now. And I had people saying, you are crazy, take it. But I had to look in the mirror and go, am I in shape for this? Can I get under the bench and lift this weight? And if I can't, let me leave it alone until it's the right time. So the question for you right now is, what shape is your career in right now? I'm gonna give you a couple of things to help you figure this out. How many of you get like a mid-year or end of the year review at your job? Put your hand up higher. Great, put your hand down. How many of you run your own businesses or entrepreneur, you don't really have a boss? Y'all the ones I gotta pray for right here. Because you know you're the best. You look at me, I know I'm great. I'm gonna help you too, you are great. But here's what you can do. The number one thing I want you to do is look back at your last job performance review. If you didn't like it is not the question. That's what somebody's opinion of you. That is somebody's opinion of your style, of your impact, of what you've done or what you're doing. And so what people do is they get their review and they get upset and then they're like, or they're happy, it could be both ways, but they put it on the shelf. And I'm like, no, that was your map to success. Because in that review, typically they're telling you some things that you are doing very well. There's also those things that they're saying, you know, how many do like a scale of 1 to 5? They would do that, or it's 3, or ABC. Do y'all do anything? Okay. I told you I will get out this circle and there'll be a fight in here. Okay, anyway, ain't no security on Saturday. We're about to go. No, stop, I'm back, corporate. All right, so review your job performance. I didn't say let your boss review it. I said you review it. After you have your conversation, you go back to your desk, you go home, tear that thing up. Like read every sentence. What are they saying? Where are my opportunities? And then take that information and that's your mirror. That is your scale. That is what people are seeing. And your question now is this: what am I going to do to get in better shape with my career? So if it's the end of 2022 and you're getting ready to get your end of the year review either now or the beginning of the year, then you start to create your action plan for the rest of the year. You start to figure things out. Now, if you are an entrepreneur and you do have your own business, then I would ask you to talk to your clients. I call clients and I say, tell me how I'm doing. What can I do differently? How can I do it better? And after people get past the pleasantries, if you listen, people are saying, no, you're great, Chris. It would just be nice if you could do this. That's my mirror. That's my scale. The second thing is use performance feedback. So even if you don't wait till the end of the year, when you've done a meeting, when you've been part of a project, you've been part of a team, listen to what people say. Chris, he was good. He was good. I mean, he didn't come all the time, but he was good. Like, whoa, wait. That little sentence, he didn't come all the time. What do you mean that didn't come all the time? I thought, so then I have to not get upset, but figure out what did I do to create that message in someone's head? What did I say? And I know what you're saying. First of all, I was at all the meetings. Don't do that, right? You take a step back and go, okay, something I am doing, something in my mirror is showing that. The other thing is evaluate performance goal attainment. Are you setting goals at work other than just go to work? So see, it's really different. I didn't say do your job. I asked you, are you setting goals? If you're just going to work and you're doing the assignments, that's not setting goals. That's doing the job. The goal is, I want to achieve, I want to reach, I want to get to. And I'm not talking just promotion. I'm talking, I want to be the first one to hand in my project. That is my goal. Go back and see how your goal attainment. Are you grasping those things? Are you getting those things? Are you achieving? The second thing is, are you maintaining? You had a good month. Great. Can you have a good quarter? I used to be in sales. I used to tell people like, I had a great month. I'm like, we got 11 more of them. Like, good for you. I mean, I'm happy for you. Do it on a consistent basis. The last thing in here is, are you going backwards? What I mean by that is the beginning of the year, you're having conflict with one employee, one coworker. By the end of the year, you don't like anybody in your department. Now, you know, I'm gonna leave that there for a second, right? Because what's happened, and then what you can do is we can conveniently find people to support what we want them to say. You'll keep shopping until, you like so-and-so? I do. You like so-and-so? I do. You like so? I can't stand her. Me neither. You're wasting your time. Let me give you a better example of this. It's like walking into the gym. You've got your towel, you got your water, you got your cute Lulu outfit on with your new sneaks. And you're doing this. You're in the gym, but you're like, I'm gonna get on this machine. And you get on that for like 2 minutes, you jump off, I'm gonna go over here. All right, I'm gonna go over here. Whew, I worked out. And then when people ask you later, what'd you do today, girl? I was working out. You were in the gym. You were hopping on machines. I tell people all the time, if you think somebody's going to come from the 4th floor to your cube, knock on it and be like, we have been upstairs planning this, come upstairs and take the office. It's not gonna probably happen. So the thing is, what are you portraying in your organization that is a tangible proof that you are ready for the next level? Because if you are fit, if your scale number looks good, it's not a wish, it's a fact. And I live in the world of facts. If you live in the world of fairy tales, go to Disney, because the facts are the things that people can't argue with. You may notice I have a tan that doesn't go away. I'm just wondering how long it's gonna take. Some of you are like, he got a tan, I got it. My point is, people used to ask me, well, Chris, I remember one time I had this conversation with someone. I didn't have a lot of mentors when I was first coming up, but I just people I had conversations with and would talk to. And this one guy, I said, man, I don't understand why I'm not getting this opportunity. And I said, I think they kind of hating on me. And he was like, they hating on the fact that you're not performing. I was like, I'm out. Because I didn't want to hear that. I wanted him to help me feel better. He said, Chris, here's the ranking of everybody in the company. It's the first quarter. You're here. He goes, they're not even going to have the second conversation about this promotion opportunity because they don't know what you can do. You're not doing your current job. The first thing you need to do before you get promoted is look at your current job and say, am I doing it well? Well, I'm going to go work in a different department. You know what they're going to do first is call your boss. And if your current manager is like, oh, she's okay. Well, That's going to be the impression. But if your current manager's like, it's great. Oh, she's top. She's always on top of things. Again, the question is, scales and mirrors don't lie. The second thing I want to talk about, I might need you to click for me. You click me forward. Nope, go back a few. Okay, yep, there, go one more, I'm sorry. So here's what I want you to think about. You can click. All right, so I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. How would your manager rate your performance today? I said your manager, not you. How would your manager rate your performance? And if you're self-employed, how would maybe your top customer or someone do that? How would you rate your performance? And then 2, rate yourself on your effort in the last 30 days. So 3 things I want you to do is, how would your manager rate your performance? Then how would you rate your performance? And then what has your effort been like in the last 30 days at work? All right, if you don't have a piece of paper, I think they have some. For those of you online, you probably have somewhere in the house, or you can do it on your phone. All right, take a few seconds and do that. If you're not writing, I will send security over. So start writing something down. I have a clicker. Can you go get it? Okay. So I'll point away. And then after you're done, I want you to get a total of the 3 numbers. If you have a 17, you are too much. You are doing too much. All right, just so I can get a sense when we're done, just throw your hands up when you're done with your totals and your numbers. All right, I'm gonna give it maybe just 1 more minute. I see a few people still thinking. If you are stuck, am I 3 or 4? Let's go with the 3. Let's go with the 3. All right, so here's what I want you to do. So I want you now at your tables, and if you're by yourself, just hop over to another table. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to have a discussion for a few minutes. What's your score? I want you to tell the person like, hey, so my score was a 12. And then I want you to explain why that's your score. Why did you score yourself that? Because this should be a combination of your opinion of yourself and your boss's opinion. And then in the last part is, what kind of shape is your career in today based on that? So you're gonna have an actual discussion with someone at your table. For those of you at home, we're gonna put you in breakout rooms and you're gonna get together and talk about that as well. All right, everybody know what they're doing? Listen, if somebody's not participating, point them out. Just be like, she's not doing nothing. Do that and we will be over there. All right, let's go for it for about 15 minutes. Make this tangible. This is your workout this morning. Let's get it done, let's go. Together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Come on back in. Great discussions. My mic is on, right? Okay. All right. All right. Can I bring you back in? All right. Give yourselves a hand. That was good. That was good. Come on, give yourself a hand. That's really my trick to get your attention. Stop clapping. Let's pay attention. No. All right, so right off the bat, how did that feel? So I want somebody to give me an example. Somebody can raise their hand and just be bold enough and say, how did it feel to talk about it? What did you feel? Right here in the blue. Wait. We got a microphone. Make sure people can hear you. Oh, you got a teacher's voice. Come on, teacher's voice.
Because we care about a hybrid environment.
There you go.
So it felt good because for one, you have to be honest. And then 2, you own it. So whether it be good, bad, or you see your opportunity, it's something about naming things. You know how they say you write it down, it gets real.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to name it, and then also justification, because if you find yourself lying in your justification, then you're not really owning it.
Yes.
So thank you for that exercise.
No, that was fabulous. And I want to point out, she said justification. It's a big stealer of your career, because instead of dealing with what's really going on, you start justifying, well, yeah, I was late with it, but well, sure, I should have, but, and so while you're justifying, you're not advancing and you're not moving yourself forward. Can we give, what's your first name? Bianca? So Bianca, just because I loved your stuff, I'm gonna give you my book. You better self-promote, you better recognize. So this is called Get Your Career in Shape. I'm trying to stay in my box, but I'll sign it for you afterwards. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else have something to say? You in the purple shirt? Did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Somebody else, give me any other comments. What was that conversation like? How did you feel having the conversation? Really? Okay, there we go.
Good morning. My name is Joffrey Wilson, and I'm always on the go, running fast. I rarely take the time to pause and think about the last 30, 60, 90 days. So that's an exercise that I want to do on a more consistent basis. It's really helpful to talk through that.
Oh, that's awesome. Now for you, I'm not even going to give you a book. I'm going to give you an executive membership to our online fitness program. So that's for you. All right. But interesting something you said. So in my career, like I'm not joking, I was managing at one point like hundreds of people across the US, mid-year or end of the year reviews. How many of you get the opportunity to write your own kind of review first? Does your company give you that chance? Right. And then you go. I was so busy working that when it came time for my review, it was almost blank. Like my boss was like, well, Chris, and I was putting stuff like broad, like I'm working hard, reach goal. And he was like, Chris, I need some more. And to your point, what I realized was I was so busy working. The conversation in 365 days that was supposed to be totally about me and my development, I was missing the opportunity. It was like I was in a gym standing still and not getting on any machines, not taking advantage of the things they were offering up. And I began to realize, just like you, if I don't stop and manage my own career success, because my boss was like, well, all right, I'll just tell you what I'm thinking. It was missed opportunities, and I don't want you to do that. Joffrey, thank you so much. Yes, please. Eric, right there in the middle. Not so quiet.
Just making sure Joffrey got his executive membership.
Come on, come on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. I actually have a piggyback off of what Joffrey said, and then also what you said to a question, because I'm actually writing my performance review right now. And what I realized is like there was something that I said I was going to do in like December 2021, and I was like, I did nothing of it. So I have to archive that goal. What are your, I know.
That's real talk. No, that's real talk.
It's true.
Seriously,
It's
that's
true.
real
I was
talk.
like, oh my gosh, this has nothing because things change. So what are your tips on keeping yourself, on task, either keeping those goals from December, of the year before, but you don't know what's going to happen in the year. And of course things change. And it's like, oh, you need to be put, on this project as opposed to the project that you said in December. So what are your tips as far as making sure that you check in on your goals, either to accomplish what you said you were going to do, or what happens when it changes and you're like, actually, if I continue this, I have no rest and I have to, like, how do you switch goals? Like, what are your tips as far as switching goals?
Yeah, I have.
Thank you.
Eric, you want to make a comment and then I'll make a comment.
Did it. You've just earned a digital copy of Chris's book.
Wait, hold on, bro. Wait. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is great. Yay for giving away free stuff. Yay. Y'all take it. It's not Black History Month. Next, let me answer that question. No, but seriously, I think you're really being real. So what I would say is you bring it up and own it before your boss, right? Go in and say, hey, I've been looking at my mid-year review or end of the year review. Here's my comments. One thing I recognized was this. I had a goal that I didn't touch. Now you have the leverage to say, and let me tell you why. No excuses. It was hard, it was this. No, give some factual things. Project X that I was on, it took this much more time. And then remember mid-year when I was asked to pick this up, I did that. And in the midst of doing that, this goal just slid off. That's one. Then two, but here's my plan of action to handle this. Here's how I'm going to approach it. And now what you've done is you've owned up to the fact You've told why, you didn't make an excuse, you gave some factual reasons why you didn't do it, and then now you have a plan of action. But here, you want to really blow your boss away? This is what you say then. After you do those two, and then, but I recognize this may be of really importance to you, so if there's something I need to do right now, please let me know, I'll get on that today. Your boss can be like, no, that's okay, it's good, I appreciate it. But see how you're owning this? But what most people try and do is they bury that at the bottom of the review and hope the whole time you're sitting across, I just hope she doesn't bring this up. You can't even hear what's going on because you're too busy thinking about the thing you messed up on, right? But I think it's that pre-ownership and getting advanced and getting ahead of it. I'm gonna give you another quick tip, it's not even in the presentation. If you really wanna get ahead of your performance review, write your pre-review. Let's say December is when you get your review. Write it in October and go sit down with your boss and say, here's how I think I'm performing. What are your thoughts? And if they say, no, I agree, but I do think you have some opportunity here, you still have 8 weeks. You can do that mid-year. You still have 6 months to turn it around. And people remember often what you've done last. So when your boss is going, oh my gosh, you really dove in over these last few weeks, it's the thing that's top of mind. So it gives you the opportunity. And what I tell people is when you write your review with your boss, because the other thing I told my boss to do as I got better at this, I was like, let's write this together. And when she thought it, or when he thought it was their idea, amazing how my reviews are better. I'm being real because I was going in before like this. Let's go, let's talk about the year. I was ready to fight. If you're arguing in your review, it's too late. It's too late. And in 23 years, one time did my boss and I have a conversation. It wasn't even a bad conversation. I just said, I honestly thought based on the facts, not, I don't think you're doing me right. I don't think you guys are watching me. When I went back and said, you asked me to do this, I did that. You asked me to do this, I did that. And I did this, this, and this. And he was like, wow. And I said, I think it deserves a different conversation. He went back and my review went up. The other 22 years, I got whatever was on the paper. I could come up with arguments, ideas. They were like, you're still a 3, bro. You're still a 3. All right, one last comment. Anyone before we move on? Yes, please. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a couple examples. So as a manager, I'm gonna tell you how I would manage people. So I would say, I'm from here, that's a pink suit, right? That pink you have on? Okay, beautiful, wonderful, love it, love it, okay. But she has a pink suit on, right? Is that my opinion or can we agree that that's a fact? Okay, so when I show you here that you can't wear pink suits at the job, I'm not being a bad person, I'm holding you to the standard, right? So as a manager, what I would do is make sure that my opinions, my conversations, my feedback would be based on facts so that you wouldn't say, well, I don't really, does he? And so your question to ask back to your manager is, hey, I appreciate I'm doing a good job. I appreciate that you like me. I appreciate you think I'm articulate, whatever those things are. But then you go, you need to find pink suits. Hey, so I was told in my role, y'all get more out of me than I'm supposed to be given. What else you can do is this, look at your job description. I tell people, if you look at your job description, it is telling you exactly what you should be doing. So pull that information out like a recipe, like, you know, you read a recipe, 2 cups of sugar, a cup of flour, whatever. When they say strategic thinking, be able to budget, you should be able to pull that out of your job description and start listing those things down. And then what you want to be able to do, that should also be reflective in your job performance. So this series of things, so if you're going back and going, well, I tell people often, go back and look at your review. I mean, go back and look at your description of your job. I don't care if you've been there 10 years, because it brings you back. And to your point earlier, then all of a sudden you start realizing, I'm not even doing a third of this that I was hired to do. But that way it gets you back factual conversations and then you can pull more out. And if that doesn't work and you're not getting it, I tell people human resources is for the humans. It's a resource for you in the building. Go to human resource and say, hey, listen, I need some additional help because I'm not sure how to articulate what I need. I just want to do better. Nobody's going to tell an employee, stop trying to do better here, right? They're going to say, oh, sure. And so you're saying, I just need additional information. If something I need to do to ask of my manager, but that may set you up to do that. Good point. I don't know if Eric's going to give you something free, but brother, got to eat. Okay, so let's go on. Sounds good? Did you like that workout? So give somebody a high five because you just did a workout. Give somebody, like you got off the machine. You did a good job. All right. All right, let me have you click it. So we talked about this. So
Chris,
now I
Chris?
want to talk about setting. Yep. We have an online question.
We have one question online from my
Online
friend
question.
Esther. What should I do if the boss tells me I don't know you well to rate you on this area? And added complexity, this manager is in an interim position.
So if your interim manager doesn't say they know you well enough to rate you on this, what do you know me well enough to rate me on? See that? Understandable. So what do you've seen me present, you've seen me run meetings, you saw me do the budget. So get an agreement on what you can. And then you say, then can you write in my review just what you said? I did not have enough information to rate you. Because when managers will do, they'll say, well, I'm just going to give you a 3 in that area. You know, don't be you just said you don't have enough. It's the pink suit. You said you don't have enough information. That's fine with me. Just put that in because that's the reason why you're not giving me this additional information. You're managing your career success. Okay, we have another question in the back. You just want a book, you really have a question. No, I'm joking, I'm joking. Go ahead. Please get the mic so people online can. Love the questions, great questions.
My name is Jamaal. I just wanted to add on to that.
It's on.
I just wanted to add to that question. What if the manager, when they say that they're kind of already out the door, so they don't even care anymore, like on the way to retirement, and you're just kind of like, I'm still here. Can you give me more information?
Yeah.
Because like I have that same issue right now. I've been in the job for 5 months. She's been there for 27 years. And I'm always like, can I get some more information?
I would say, take this phrase with you. You can write this down. It's easier to edit than it is to create. It's easier to edit than it is to create. Hey, boss of 27 years, I know you have a lot going on. I know you're busy. I know listen, I'm just going to write some things down for the review and hopefully that'll make it easier for you, maybe just to make some adds or edits. I promise you about 80 to 90% of the time I've done that, it stays the same. Because if they don't want to do that, if I'm just going to say maybe a little lazy and they don't want to do these extra work, when I help take some of the work off of that for the review itself. And the other thing is you got to own it more frequently. This is why you should have one-on-ones once or twice, a month to sit down with your manager and go, hey, just checking in, just saying. And I've had, Chris, we're good. What does good mean? What part of good? But it's easier to remember 2 weeks ago than to remember 7 months ago. Well, 2 weeks ago, we were in, and I helped them. I was in the meeting, I presented, I put the deck together. Oh, yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that? Was it good? I remember you saying. So you're owning this because if you're waiting for them to say, I'll pick it on up, it may not happen. Does that help? Good. Yes, another question. And then another online. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. What is your advice when you're dealing with someone that is passive aggressive? We live here in Minnesota. So we have a lot of managers here that are Minnesota nice, and they tend to be a little bit passive aggressive. So some of the feedback that you receive, it may not come directly from them.
Yeah.
It may be advice that their manager has given them. And so they're just regurgitating information that they received. And so it's not necessarily directly from them.
Sure.
It's information that they're regurgitating. And so it's given to them and then it's passive aggressively given to you.
Yeah.
And then you have to like manage up and then give it back to them. So
Yeah.
what is your advice on how to handle those?
No,
types of
it's a
situations?
really good question. I remember one time in my job, I was having a lot of passive aggressiveness. And I remember calling my wife and she answered the phone. She knew there was a lot going on and I was traveling and I went into a big meeting and I came out and she said, how did it go? And I said, they smiling in my face. Backstabbers. She was like, you need to go and pray or something. Anyway, but it's real talk. And so again, what you have to do is you have to own it. You already know this now, right? You know this about the manager. Let's take a step back and go, can you give me some, I'm not fine. If that's what you're saying is the feedback, I'm asking for some pink suits and I'm asking for some advice on what you want me to do differently. Because then that way, even if it's passive aggressive, I tell people take the passive out. It's really aggressive. They're really telling you, Just listen to the aggressiveness and say, okay, so you don't like when I do such and such. Is that really the core of it? Well, Chris, and the thing is, I try and diffuse it to get the information out. Your body language and your tone have a lot to do with this, right? I sit back. I really appreciate just the insight. Because if I'm saying, no, I'm fine. Tell me what else. Tell me what else. What else? What is it? What is it? So what else? I know so-and-so don't like me anyway. You got to watch it. They told me be real. I can go corporate. Good morning. It's so good to be here. Oh my gosh, I love Target. I'm being real with you all because you have to control your emotions will start to move up, right? And so, and I've done this before, set these types of meetings up on your calendar when you are mentally ready to have them, right? I remember trying to do a review with somebody at the end of the day. I was tired, they were tired. They came at me and I was like, I'm not the one. You know what I mean? It was like, and I said, let's pick this up tomorrow. Because I was in an emotional place that wasn't good, neither was the person. But my point is really get the facts. And like I said, it's the scale again. You may have to hear this and go, maybe I am doing this. I don't intend to, but if I'm looking in the mirror, or even though I don't want to do this, it is coming off some kind of way to someone. And that will get in your way of advancement because people, and the two things that I will tell you is the problems you have or the opportunities you have for growth, they're an issue, but there's something you can work on. But when you get the reputation of a person who's not coachable, you can't hear and listen, that'll get in your way more than anything else. But when people say, no, I've given her some tough feedback and she took it and she created a plan, but make your bosses do the work. Thank you for this feedback. I appreciate it. Do you mind if we meet once a week? Well, because I really want to glean from you. I had one boss, he came back, he was like, I think you're doing good now. I was like, oh, okay. Does that help? Okay, any other question? One more question online.
It's not a question, but it is feedback. Annie replied back to the manager question about the vagueness and feedback. And she said another angle is to reference other managers who know and see your work. The interim manager should be motivated to do the research to rate you appropriately.
Yeah, so they're using other managers to maybe validate who you are and your skill set. The other thing is, I have taken people out to lunch. I bought them nice gifts when they're leaving the company. Oh, no, I'm not giving to you everybody else in the room. We're gonna sit down and I'm gonna hand you your gift and go, I put my review together because I know you have a lot going on while you're leaving. Outgoing people are like, this is great, right? I made the person who knew me a little bit better do a little bit more of the work so the person coming in could at least have that as a foundation. And when they say, well, I haven't had enough time to really manage you, I understand that. That's why I went and got this from my previous manager. Okay? It's just really what I'm saying is it's your ownership of this. But if you just go, okay, that's fine, and you let it ride, then you have to recognize you're getting back what you're putting into the workout, okay? Let's go to the next session, setting your goals. All right, so this is true. This is from a study, and it says this: Americans want to be fit, but don't put in the work. More than 3/4 of US adults say being in shape and looking good are very important to them. Oops. Yet less than 1/3 exercise regularly and nearly half admit they are not active at all. It's amazing, I want it, but I'm not doing what I need to do to get it. And I know that because so many people put January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I'm a vegan. You eating ribs on the 4th. Like, what are you talking about, right? I didn't put this slide in there, but there's another study that talks about quitters never win. It was a study. And it looked at from January 1, when people make their goals for the year. And it was January 17th, they called it National Quitters Day. Because by the 17th, 98% of people drop off of that goal. So the question becomes, if this goal sounds nice, you're not gonna go after it. That's why I tell people, stop going after jobs just because it's a good title. Go after the one you really want, because you're gonna stay engaged in that. Stop getting in industries like, oh, I think they make a lot of money. I think they do this. No, you gotta get something that you really want so that you'll get up and do the workout. So wanting something is not enough. You have to do something. Somebody say, do something. Now tell somebody else, ask them, are you doing something? Okay, please ask them for real, like get real with it. Y'all so nice. Are you doing something? Now ask them, are you doing something? So here's what I want you to think about. I want you to start setting your goals. So number one, be clear on something you want to achieve in your career. I mean, specific. I'm not talking, I like working here, I enjoy it. I want you to say, I want that job, that particular opportunity. I want to go and do that thing in the organization. I want to launch this type of business. So the thing is, be clear on your promotion, be clear on your performance rating. I want a 4 by the end of the year. We're in campaign season. Campaign. I love working here. I so enjoy working here. I'm really hoping to get a 4 by the end of the year. Well, good for you, Chris. Yeah, so I want to partner on I want to work together. I want you to know this. I don't bring this up in December. I talk about it throughout the year, and I let my boss know this is my goal. I know you guys are looking at me like, man, he's so fit. Thank you. So when I talk to personal trainers, I've had personal trainers like, what do you want? And I'm like, to get in he's like, no, I mean, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to get more muscle? And I'm like, this is perfect. But I was like, y'all are not there. Okay, so but really what I'm trying to do is, because he said, you're going to come to the gym. I don't know what machine to put you on. I don't know what workout to do, because if you want to be a marathon runner, it's a different workout. If you want to get promoted inside your company, that's different from getting promoted outside your company. It's a different workout. The other thing, if you want a salary increase, make it as a specific goal. Go find out, what would it take for me to get more than the 3%? I'm just curious. Well, we never do that. I understand that, but if you were, I remember asking a boss that. I said, well, what would it take? And he's like, Chris, it was a rating. I said, what if I wanted to get the 5? I know it's 1 out of 5. He goes, we only give 3 5s out in the company. I said, okay, so somebody gets them. What do I have to do? Oh, I don't think I've ever given a 5. I understand that. I kept pressing. He was like, well, you'd have to do this, and you'd probably have to do that. And I was like, great. So now I at least know before I walk in the door at the end of the year, I know I didn't hit those things, then I get the 4 or the 3. But also, if it's a pink suit and you told me these 3 things, and I sent you an email to remind you, thank you for telling me the 3 things I need to get the 5, facts, right? Documentation, going to the review, remember we talked about this beginning of the year? I'm so excited to show you I hit all 3. Oh, well, no. Do you need to call somebody? Do you need a minute, right? But it's these clear goals. If you don't set these goals, I'm telling you, you'll just start going to work. We have an online question.
Yes. The question is, how do you find growth opportunities within the company when it seems that you are the only one invested in your growth?
How do you find growth opportunities in the company when you seem like you're the only one, right? Okay, interested in your growth. So there's 2 big problems in that situation. One is you have to, again, make people realize you want to move up. True story. I was kind of probably a year, 2 years into my career. I'd already received like kind of a smaller promotion. And I was living in Michigan. This promotion was going to move me to headquarters in New Jersey. I go through the interview process to go become a trainer. I get it. I get the interview and I come home. So a week or so passes and the hiring manager calls me and he goes, well, Chris, I got to say you did really well in the interview. I was like, well, great. I'm really excited. Like I said, I really want this. He said, I do have one problem. The rumor is you want to move up tomorrow and run part of the company. And what if that's not going to happen? I was like, I'm sorry. He said, the rumor is you just want opportunities. And first of all, I was like, who said this, right? So I had to compose myself and I said, yes, Phil, I really do want to move up. I just didn't say how fast. So I'm happy to take the incremental steps it's going to require for me to get the skills I need to get to whatever level this organization may put me in later. Y'all better shut up, that was good. So, but what he did was he was like, that's all I needed to hear because he had a perception of me that wasn't real. Somebody had said, but I was young. I had already got 1 promotion. I think somebody was hating a little bit. I think somebody may have said something. I think somebody had an idea. I may have said, yeah, I'd love to. When people used to ask me what I wanted to do, this is so early in my career, they were like, do you know what role you want to be in as the question happens? I was like, I just want to hold a clicker. And this one guy said, what? I said, all I know is when we go to those big meetings, somebody's on stage with a clicker. I said, so get me a clicker job. He was like, get you a clicker job. But I knew that meant you were running something, you were doing something. So part of that is having a conversation with your boss, clearly saying, setting a goal of, I want to get into marketing. I didn't say today, I'm happily working here, but I have goals. I have an idea. I have something I want to do. So you having those conversations. The second thing is when you're shopping, don't go down one aisle. When's the last time you went to the grocery store? You literally just went in one aisle, stepped out, and you at least go to 1 or 2, or you look around. What happens at work, you go to your aisle. You're looking at only your department. Well, there's only 4 jobs. She's not leaving. He's not leaving. So there, but what at this aisle? What about this department? What about this opportunity? So I would start looking around and also the second thing is listen to your organization. We're going to be developing this. We're going to be growing into that. We're going to be launching this. If the company's going down there, start figuring out how you can get with the company going in the direction they're going. Hopefully that answers the question for person online. All right, the second thing in this is break your goal into measurable and attainable achievement segments. I'm not trying to do just the SMART goals. I'm telling you to be real. You cannot show up at Lifetime saying, I want to lose 100 pounds by Friday. You need to give yourself some specific time, and then you have to make some decisions. Am I going to give up sweets? Am I going to work out in the mornings? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this at work? I'm going to go meet someone. I'm going to go have a conversation with someone. So everybody go like this. Go like that. So straight across. So do like a straight line and then go like this. All right. So this right here are competencies of the job you want, not the job you have. Right? List those competencies out. Okay, to get to vice president of marketing, and I'm not, look now. I'm not talking you just started there and you're trying to be VP next week. I'm talking like find the right job opportunity for you, right? But look at the job you want and list the competencies. And then start going across and start to try and figure out who are the decision makers. Because the decision makers have to see you doing these competencies so they feel comfortable giving you the opportunity. And when decision makers don't know your competencies, you're not going to get opportunities. And that's like, and you know, people say, well, so-and-so loves me. Great. What about the other 4 decision makers? Well, my boss doesn't really like me that much. What about the other 4 decision makers? Right? And what happens for those who in the room are in management or leadership roles, I'm telling you, they can tell you this. This happens in real world. There's some kind of board with some kind of job description or job title, and the company starts to list names. And now it doesn't happen exactly like this, but in my world, it really did happen like this. We would put the job that we needed to hire for or promote for, and then we would start saying as a management team, who are the people? And start listing names. And when somebody would say, oh, I love Sue, she's great, da 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 da. But if one other person goes, I don't know, I had a bad experience with her, and da 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 da, that name moves down. But what I have seen is you put a name up, and if everybody goes, I think it's pretty good, she does a good job. You don't have to be loved by everyone to move up, but your reputation is going to help you in those situations when people start having that. That's where these 9-box grids, if you have those in your workplaces, or you have lists of promotional opportunities. The last one in this area is think smaller workouts that over time could help reach your goal. I want you to think in small increments. You need to become better at numbers so that you can get ready for this next opportunity. You need to become better at creating presentations. So don't wait for the biggest opportunity, start working out here. I told you the NFL is one of my clients, and I told them when I started working with some other people, I said, listen, you can't show up to the Super Bowl playing your first football game. You just can't. So you take all these other games to get better, learn different plays. What you want to do is this. Let me tell you the most frustrating thing in your career is you see the job you want, and then you go post for it, and then someone says, oh, you don't have the things we need for you to even interview. What's worse is when I sat across from somebody and they were like, Chris, this is great. Unfortunately, you don't have a lot of the things we need for this. So now I knew that opportunity wasn't coming around again for a while. I couldn't be mad at them. I had to be mad at me because I wasn't doing the workouts to get myself ready. All right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a career workout plan. Tell somebody, here's where the work starts. All right, I just wanted to wake some people up. Okay, what is a workout plan? It's a session of vigorous physical exercises. So when you work out, it's physical. You got to put some effort in this. You want to get somewhere in your career, you're going to put some effort in it. You want to move up, you want to build a better reputation, it's going to take some work. Not work that you can't do, but you can't just think, I'm just going to do my regular job and everyone's going to come to me. It doesn't happen that often. You have to work out to get to a better place in shape. So I want to give you an example. So just say somebody wants to be a sales manager at a luxury car dealer, and their long-term goal is to obtain a position as a regional sales manager. So they're working somewhere and they have this long-term goal. But then the milestones or short-term goals are be a top sales performer for each quarter. So they've taken this big idea and they started saying, okay, here's something I can break this down into quarters. I can break down the quarters. And I said, my goal is to be top performer. What does top performer look like? What's that number? How am I going to do it? What customers am I going to get? Number two, become the sales manager at current dealership location. I'm not going to look anywhere else. I'm going to work here hard. I'm going to get the people here to see the competencies and see the decision makers and make sure they see me in that role. I'm going to join professional organizations related to sales, and I'm going to do networking related to this. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not just going to every networking event. I'm going to the events where the people who are going to be the decision makers are going to see me. I'm going to go to the networking events where I'm going to meet the right people. Do you see how I'm taking a big goal and I'm starting to break it down? This will save you some time instead of trying to go to everything with everybody. Start being focused. Start knowing names. LinkedIn, I didn't even have no LinkedIn. I just had to look around and be like, I think she works in this department. You can go on LinkedIn, you can find everything else you want about somebody. A little detective work. True story, I had interviewed a guy. We were in the interview towards the end, and I said, well, hey, what questions do you have for me? And he said, so when you ran the marathon in Chicago and you got a number, he quoted the number, I was like, you tripped me out, bro. He was like, oh, I just did some history. It literally like scared me because I was like, how did you, he had pull up a picture. He's like, oh, I was like, this is, but then on the other side, the person in the room, we were like, this person wants the job. They were like, nobody else did that today. And I was like, you're right. What are you doing to stand out? What are you doing to do this work? So then they start breaking these things out into activities. Okay, I'm gonna attend sales calls with senior people. I'm gonna start working with other people. So if I'm your boss and I'm watching my whole division, and then I see you with a plan, I see you meeting with other people, I see you trying to go and shadow people. When it comes time to start thinking about who should get promoted, your activities speak out. The other thing is consistently be on top performer. Okay, then how am I going to do it? And I'm using this just to show you how it breaks down. There's an activity, there's how. How many people try and work out? How many people would like to be in better shape? How many of you already know what you need to do? You know good and well the double Whopper, I get, but this is what I love. I get the vegan Whopper. Yeah, that green plate, it's the same burger. They just lying to us, right? No. My point is, you know what to do. Let me tell you something about work. You know what to do. You just don't want to do it. Because you have said this. Well, I'm not doing all that. You have. You have said that to somebody. What? I ain't want to know Saturday, please. I wish I would. You said that, right? But if you want this thing, you will be the first one. I'd love to go in on a Saturday. I love Saturday mornings. Right? Because I won't do this because of this, but I usually line a line of people up. And then if you take one step forward, the further you get in front of that line, the more people are going to start focusing on you and less on the line. But when I'm in line, I see everybody. But when I see somebody edging out, it's visual. I will start to look at the thing that's in front. Step forward. This is how you start to step forward. The last thing I want you to see is they actually start plugging this stuff in. Dates and times for their workout. What day of the week are you going to the gym? What workout are you doing on Monday? What workout are you doing on Tuesday? What are you doing this quarter? So what you're doing now is you're starting to break these activities down into segments. So now I'm going to give you some opportunity to do some work, right? Here's the second workout. I want you to think about what is a goal, right? Don't record nobody's business and go back to work. You know what she's trying to do? Just leave it in here. Leave it in here. But I want you to be honest with yourself and I want you to dream a little bit. Now, I want you to start saying, I'm not even sure how this would happen. One of the biggest things I do when I coach CEOs and CFOs or people trying to move up is I push them to stop thinking about the limitations. Because I'll say, what do you guys really want? Well, what do you really want? What do you want? And they're talking about what they think they can do. And I go, well, okay, take time and money out for a second. What do you really want? We'd love to do this, or I'd love to do this as my career. But if I can get that out of you, that's really what you want. It's going to be more important to you to go after it. So I want you to think about a specific goal you want. And then I want you to do this. I want you to share an activity you can do to work towards achieving that goal. So I want you to think about a goal. And then I want you to start thinking about some activities that you can do at work. And if you're an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. I want to get more clients. Well, how are you going to do that? What's a physical activity that you can do? Sound good? So let's take 10 minutes. You can do this at your group. I would say maybe get 2 people, 3 people, you can talk together. For those again online, you can do it. We're gonna put you in breakouts. Everybody know what they're doing? What do you do if somebody's not working? Point them out, call them out. And let me call me over, I will come and help. All right, let's go, let's get into it. I think I just took your water, by the way. Good. All right, let's come back together. Because I can't hear myself up here, so I'm assuming they can hear me out there, right? So everybody needs a hype man. Give it up for my hype man right there. All right. So I'd like to hear back from a couple people. What was it like, first of all, actually having to say that goal out loud? When somebody said scary? Who said scary? Who said scary? Can you share why it was scary? No judgment. It's all love in the family. Why was it a little scary to actually say it out loud?
I guess because sometimes it's a big goal and you're nervous to see if you can ever maybe achieve it, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's the scary part for me, I guess.
No, that's fair. Because sometimes saying it out loud, it makes it real. Someone said earlier, writing it down makes it real. But can I share something with you? If you can't say it out loud, how dare you think somebody else is going to see you doing it? Right? I mean, I've had a couple of times in my career with somebody who didn't know me at all and just came up and said, hey, have you ever thought about, but I mean, that was so random. It was more when I hear you want to get into the such and such division. I do. Okay. What are you doing to work on that, Chris? I don't know. What should I be working on? But the more I did it, and then when I could start to see myself in that opportunity. If you have worked out before, do you know sometimes people do this? And anybody who played like a sport in high school, you put the really fit person up in the weight room and you're looking at them like, you know you're never gonna look like that, but it's a dream, right? But what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to motivate you. So I'm gonna share some little secrets. I have put stuff up on my vision board with my name. I've created my card with vice president of this. And somebody came in my office one day and they're like, what's this? I was like, none of your business, none of your business. But I had to get a vision of where I was going. I had to start seeing myself in these roles and opportunities. So if you don't set a goal, you're going to just go to work. And let me tell you something, then it is just work. But when you create a goal, then you say, now I go to an environment where I can get to my goal. Stop going to work and go to an environment that is going to help you get to your goal. When I talk to people like, I hate my work, I don't like work, I'm like, because you're working. But if you go, man, gyms are work, but it's different when you're going and you're achieving your goal and you have these things that are helping you get there. Anybody else? How was it to talk about your goal out loud, to say it to a stranger, to even say it to somebody you know? How did it feel? I would throw a shoe at someone. Oh, okay, never mind.
In the chat, somebody said it felt overwhelming and seemed like a lot, and they didn't think they were so clear on their action steps.
Yeah, so they said it was overwhelming. It can be overwhelming to say, how am I gonna do this? That's why the steps have to be incremental, right? I've not been working out for a year. I'm not gonna go out and run 5 miles, but I am gonna walk for 10 minutes. I will get on the treadmill. It is those incremental steps. I will go to my manager and say, can I attend this meeting and sit on the outer circle? I don't even wanna say anything. Then over time, I'm gonna start sitting in the inside table. Again, this isn't in my slides, but I feel let me talk about this too. When you get a job, you get an opportunity to get a role, I'm gonna give you 3 steps you should be thinking about. New to the job, right? You should ask a lot of questions. Hey, do we do that? Do we use this program? Would you like me to send it this way? Why? You should be asking a lot. Where's the bathroom? Where's the cafeteria? You should be, right? Because you're new. Over time, you should get into what I call your second bucket, which is, hey, I have a question, but I have an idea of an answer. The shift is, the first one is, I really don't know anything, and that's okay because I'm new. The second one is, I'm picking up on some stuff. So here's the situation. The client is saying that they want us to provide this type of data. I think we can pull that from here, and that's what I was thinking about doing. Third box is this. Boss, this situation came up, and here's how I handled it, and I wanted to make sure you were aware. That is a progression of development on your skill. So what's happening now, because see, if you stay in bucket 1, I'm just going to pick a number, for 3 years, they can't understand and see you in bucket 2, and they definitely can't see you running the department. But if they see you and they say, okay, yes, she's really answering questions. She comes up with the ideas, she has answers to it. But when you're in a department and you're still asking questions and other people are coming up with solutions to questions, and it's not even have to be perfect, but it starts to separate people out. It's those things that start to get you out of the line. All right? How many found an activity? What was an actual activity that you wrote down? I talked to a few of you, like, I really figured something I can do next week even. Anybody come up with an activity? Yes.
Hello, Christian Spiegel. One of the activities that I did, my goal was to build on my most recent performance cycle. I finally got my first 5, so it's time to get another one.
Let's go. Hold on. Get that man a hand. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'm sorry. That wasn't like a scale of 1 to 25, though. It was you. I just want to make sure before we get all hyped.
On a scale of 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Okay, let's give it up for. All right, good stuff.
So it's time to, build on that 5. If you want to be a leader one day, they're not gonna let you lead a team if you're not performing yourself. So you got to produce results. So the activity I'm going to do, I'm changing roles. And the activity I'm going to do is set up with the manager. Like, look, if I stayed in my old role, I would have got another 5. I'm confident in that. What do I need to do to manage my performance cycle year over year and change to a different department and understand what that is? So that's the activity I have to set up.
So the tangible, so that's a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a list of questions you're going to go in and ask.
Yep.
That is real. That is not theoretical. Man, I hope my new boss likes me. I have an activity. I know what I'm doing. And then you can come back and check the box. Did I do it or I did not? Good stuff. Good question. Good. Anyone else? Yeah. No? Yes. One more.
Oh, I just had a point to make when we set the goals. And one thing I've realized over the years is that when you set the goal outside of just the promotion and the pay raise, then you realize that you're targeting more of something that's of impact and how your presence or your opportunity or your opinions impacts the big picture and on a bigger scale.
Yes, no, it's a really good point. Sometimes my goal, or I coach people, the goal is to get on that team, not the goal to run the department. Just get on the team first. Then your second goal is to move up, right? My goal is to learn a skill set. I'm going to go spend time. So when I was getting ready to leave corporate and I knew I was going to open my own company, and I was fortunate because I was able to talk to the CEO and owner. I told him, and I said, but here's what I'd like to do. Can I go sit down with finance? I knew finance, they were my partner, but I didn't really have to do a lot of it. But I knew I was going to be leaving and I was going to be HR and finance and all of the departments. So I spent time in other areas getting skills so that I could pick up on those. So it's a really, really good point. All right, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. Here's what I want you to do. You can do this now or do this later, but I'm going to ask you to write down one goal, right? So we talked about it, but I want you to tangibly write your goal down. I want to become this. I want to get in that department. I want to move over. I want a 5. I want a raise at the end of the year that's good. Whatever your goal is, and then I really want you to start writing down one thing you can do to work towards achieving that goal. You can also have 2 goals. You can also have 2 different sets of activities. One goal is I want to become more competent in the type of information that I'm responsible for in my role. I'm an IT role. I want to get better at that. What's the activity? I'm going to read this book and I'm going to take an online course. Let me tell you, you come back to work and say you've been paying out of pocket to take a course. What? Yeah, I just wanted to get better at my job. You're going to stand out. The other side of it is if there's something over here that you want to do, it's the same thing. You wish for something, those aren't birthday candles. For a job, you can't wish. You got to go to work. So do the work. Last thing I want to talk about here is commit to do the work. Get the workout task on your calendar. Like literally, do not say it in your head. Put it on your calendar. On Thursdays from 2 to 3, I block an hour to do this. By Friday of next week, I'm going to do that. Because then when your calendar pops up, it's a reminder. It's going to pull you through. Another little tip I always tell people to do, I look at my calendar Sunday night for the entire week. I don't just look for tomorrow. I look for the entire week to go, oh my gosh, if I'm doing that by Friday, when am I putting time in my calendar to do the actual work? When I created this presentation, I didn't just put the date I was going to speak. I put times in my calendar to do the work for the presentation. Okay, so think about it that way. Incorporate your activities into your daily, weekly schedule. What can I do today? 10 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour. What can I do right now? Stop watching all that Netflix. Get off of there. You have been watching something all night and tired at work. Stop it. All right. And then create accountability. This is a big one. A lot of people, there's a lot of data that shows if someone works out by themselves in the gym versus if they have a friend that meets them at the gym, you will get up more in the morning when you're like, she's there. Oh, I got to go. During the pandemic, I had a guy who became a personal trainer. Well, he was a personal trainer and he came to me and he said he wanted to open his own business. So he switched the model to come to your house, bring certain weights, and then work you out inside your house. I was like, phenomenal model. So I said, we should test it. He said, I'm gonna use you as a test. When he knocked on my door the first time, I was like, it's too real. This is too much. I'm serious. My dog was barking and he was like, he called me. He's like, I'm outside. I was like, uh-huh. He's like, you're inside. Open the door, right? But it made it real. But I couldn't get out of working out if I didn't want to. Make some people be accountable and help you do your stuff. All right? George Washington Carver says this, there is no shortcut to achievement. So life requires thorough preparation. I'm gonna give you this visual. Take a picture of this. Preparation is the arrow, right? Preparation is what goes into performance. How I prepare is going to show up in how I perform. And another area of my life, I'm one of the chaplains for the Timberwolves. I go to practices. I can see sometimes of how they're preparing, right? I can see how they're working or their diet or when they're eating and not eating. The preparation is going to show up in my performance, but my performance is going to build my perception. People are going to start saying about you who you are based on the performance that they see. They may never know the preparation that you do. I don't know all the back stuff that you're doing. I just know the perception I have of, ooh, she must not eat no kind of food. He's in great shape. Do you even eat? You must only eat vegetables. Why? Because I'm seeing the outcome. I don't know what they work out with. I don't know what they're eating. So at work, what you have to start thinking about is what am I preparing and how I'm preparing and how is that showing up in my performance and how is that impacting on my perception? So the last thing I taught you about earlier, I'm gonna have a booth out here. If you didn't get a book, I'm selling the books. You can buy a book, you can go on Amazon and get it as well. But what this gym is, I'm offering today, this is a $5 membership, $5 a day. Somebody say $5 a day. Now, if you spend more on your coffee than you do your career, I can tell you why your career is in the shape that it's in, right? People came to me, Chris, I can't afford an executive coach. I can't afford an executive coach. This is what happened when I first started. And I told my wife, I was like, this is old school. People bringing chickens. Like, can you coach me? I was like, I need some money. So then I said, I had to create a system. So I created this to make it affordable, accessible, and relatable. So as a member of my gym, you get to go in. You can send me an email. Chris, can you make a video? I sure will. So you actually get to create the content. So this is normally $5 for you. I'm going to do it as $1 a day. The name, who remembers penny candy? Anybody remember penny candy? Anybody? I'm not that old. I am not by myself. But you used to go to the store with $1 and come out like, now you're going $1. It's like a down payment on a candy bar. Anyway, so here's what it looks like kind of inside of my center. So there are all these videos and vignettes. And so they're 3 minutes, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. But what I'm doing is I'm giving you the same stuff I would be doing on a one-on-one coaching session in your phone. True testimony, this guy who's a member of the gym, he was in a big meeting. He said, Chris, I went to the bathroom, locked the door. He said, I went to the video on creating better presentations. He said, it wasn't going well. I went in, he said, I got 3 things. They were like, where'd you get 3 things? All right. So as you get in here, you'll be able to scroll and see. And when you click on this, it opens up and then I come on and I'm coaching you on whatever the topic is, how to stand out, some management secrets, how to handle change at your organization. And then also inside there, I interview people who have made it in different industries. Chandron Thomas manages a $1.2 trillion fund for Northern Trust Bank. That's with a T. He has like 1,000-something employees over the whole country. And he told me, even outside of the country, but I'm asking him not only about the job, I'm asking, how did you get there? How did you bounce back from mistakes? What did you do? What do you look for when you're hiring, when you're promoting people? Some of you may know Tiffany Boyd. I don't know if anybody in the room, but Tiffany is chief of people for McDonald's. So I'm asking her, How do people move up? And what I'm doing for my members is giving you that information. So if you have more questions about this, you can see me afterwards. We did all the Q&A. Y'all didn't pay me enough to do that. All right, have a great day. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all, come on. That was just incredible. Another round of applause, if we could. Chris gave us a lot, this workout, career workout. I'm a little exhausted, but that was 3 rounds of fitness. So I know everyone was taking notes. Please take the time, spend time with Chris. He's gonna be out there. He's gonna be with us throughout the day. Get the book. I think something around investing in ourselves. This was definitely a way just to rethink about your career, kind of what your goals are. I hope everyone was picking up what he was laying down because it was a lot. But we so thank you for what you brought in here today, Chris. Thank you again. So I'm Jernell Foster, Wells Fargo. I'm one of the founding board members for TC BANDD, and I have the honor and privilege of introducing a longtime friend of TC BANDD, Michelle Perdue. Michelle is the founder and CEO of Speak to Advanced Communications. She is a motivational keynote speaker. She is an author. She's a performing artist. If you've been flipping on your TV lately, you may have seen her in a couple of commercials. So she is a woman that is doing great work. Earlier this year, she came and delivered a fantastic presentation. It's on our YouTube during Black History Month. And so if you don't know her, please get to know Michelle. And Michelle, I'm gonna invite you up for your poem. Round of applause.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Before I recite this poem, I would like to put the poem in a little bit of a context. Can I do that? There once was this little old lady who was as round as the watermelon that she would share with her grandchildren on a hot summer day. And although she was poor, she had a heart of gold. She worked at Norton's Hospital in the housekeeping department every day, making beds and scrubbing floors and toilets. And although she was poor, she recognized the importance of giving back. So what did she do? She went to her granddaughter and she said, you know what? I think it's so important that we give back. I want you to volunteer. I want you to volunteer at the hospital that I work because I know how important community is and I know that you can make a difference. So her granddaughter says, well, she thought about what her grandmother had asked her. And she says, well, grandmama, I'm poor. I get a welfare check for $140 a month, and that barely covers expenses. I wear secondhand clothes. I cash in pop bottles for bus fare. You raised your children in the projects. My mama raised her children in the projects, and I'm probably gonna raise my children in the projects. And you want me to volunteer? Well, she knew her grandmother wasn't crazy, so she decided to give it a try. And as a result, it changed her life. How do I know? I know because that granddaughter was me. When I volunteered at that hospital, I felt as if I could make a difference. I walked with my head held high. I strutted as if I had a pocket full of money. Because the moment a child walked into the emergency room with a woman holding this child, limped in her arms, saying that this child has just been abused, where do I take him? I knew that my life would never be the same. The reason why I'm sharing this story with you today is because I want you to think about the people in your life who have helped you to rise to the occasion, who have helped you to be resilient. When you think about your ancestors and all that they have done to have demonstrated to us, not even have told you, sometimes we don't communicate our strengths and what we're capable of, but what they've shown you. And it's because of my grandmother, partly, that I've had an appreciation for the topic of resilience, which has helped me to want to give back to my community and to serve from the highest part of my being in terms of helping others to rise to the occasion. And I have to say that is what has inspired me to write the book, Rise and Shine, How to Live a Life of Resilience and Perform at Your Potential. You know, in 2017, I was, diagnosed with breast cancer. And after being diagnosed with breast cancer, once again, I realized how important resilience was and the difference that it made in my life. So today I come here because I want to share a poem with you that's in my book called Rise and Shine. Can I do that today? And it's simply to inspire you on those days when you are at work and you just feel like it's so hard to put one foot in front of the other and you're like, God, how am I going to get through this? I want you to think about this because naturally we are all born with an innate physiological resilience system. And sometimes we forget that. That's what that fight or flight phenomenon is all about. But in my book, I give you tangible tools that you can use, that you can implement every day to help you to rise to the occasion. So once again, this poem is called Rise and Shine. I anxiously awaken to the beauty of the luminous rising sun, excited for the day and all of its glory, yet it's barely begun. The thrill I seek lies in the quest of owning my greatness, for when I embrace the authentic me, I rise, bold and audacious, backbone erect, feet grounded to Mother Earth as I stand in my truth. I rise and shine to stand in my purpose and do what I was born to do. I was born to conquer my debilitating and self-limiting fears, act beyond painful barriers causing blood, sweat, and tears. Give humanity a boost when darkness appears to have overshadowed its joy. Be the rainbow in the midst of their storms that aims to destroy. I am a believer and conceiver of my destiny as I create it day by day. That's why I rise and shine with confidence and sing his praise. When I rise, I give gratitude to those who have helped me to love myself. They've helped me to own my imperfections in spite of the cards I've been dealt. When I rise and shine, I feel as though I can achieve my best. I don't lose hope and get discouraged. I accept life happens as simply a test. My hope for you is that you will rise and shine and see each day as a new beginning. Regardless of your past mistakes, your flaws, and your failures, you're alive. You're winning. So when darkness falls and you lose your way and you don't know which way to turn, look back and reminisce about the sunny days and all the life lessons learned. Let the sun illuminate your thoughts to bring your greatest ideas to fruition. You are not worthless news. Act as if you are in vogue, the latest edition. It's time to rise and shine and let your beauty and your passion and your gifts rise with the sun. Embrace who you are. There is no one like you. You're the only one. Let the light within you ignite your soul through the good and the bad times. Accept that you are destined for greatness. And now it is your time to rise and shine. So I just want to ask, I'm not technically a speaker today. I wanted to share my poem, but can someone share how did that poem resonate with you? What were you thinking as you were listening to that poem? Yes.
My name is Jennifer Doherty, and I'm actually transitioning from one job to the other. I was previously working as the business manager at Friendship Academy of the Arts. So being around students and youth and having the opportunity to help them put the systems and the structure and the things together that they need to kind of make those next steps. And on my last day, I really did not realize the impact that I had had on coworkers on the business level, but also the kids. One little girl said, "Oh, Miss Jennifer, you can't quit on me now. We've been together for 3 years." She's in the second grade. But she was serious. I was like, she's coming for me. But I promised them I would be back to visit. But the rise and shine, because now I have an opportunity working for the Ray McKenzie Group to develop relationships and help make sure that the workforce is ready for these babies when they get there, and provide, again, hopefully, a better workforce opportunity and environments for their parents or the people that are providing for them now. So it was very motivational because it's kind of hard to leave, that kind of environment.
Absolutely.
But a great opportunity to rise and shine. So thank you.
Thank you. What's your name? Jennifer. Thank you. Can I give you one of my books? Oh. I'd be happy to sign it for you if you like. You're welcome. Someone else. Yes.
Would you like a book a card to carry out all of your winnings for the day?
Hi, my name is Asada Gilmore, and I started with KPMG a little over a year ago. It's my first big girl job out of college. I graduated from Perdue May 2021. And the last year working definitely wasn't as expected. There are a lot of ups and downs, and I think sometimes I really sit in those downs. And I feel like I peaked in college, like it doesn't get better, but rise and shine, specifically the line, I'm a believer conceiver in my destiny as I create it day by day, just gave me that. Even in those bad moments, you are still working and you're growing, and your past accomplishments do not dictate what your future accomplishments are going to be. And so I was just really motivated and inspired to continue to go. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Absolutely. All right. Well, I have one more book. Can I give you a book? Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Yes. Oh, one in the chat. Absolutely.
We've got Hudson on the Zoom. The poem made me think on my purpose in life, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to arise and shine and do what I was born to do.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right, I will turn the mic over to Eric.
Thank you, Michelle, for inspiring us as we transition to our next section. So my takeaway was rise and shine, let your beauty and passion rise. So that was my takeaway. I don't get a book though, but that's what I took away. So thank you, we'll appreciate it. So thanks everyone. My name is Eric Alexander, the founder and CEO of TC BANDD. This is the section where we transition to our breakout groups. Before I do that, I wanted to do one big thank you. I want to thank Cecilia, Latano, Jamaal, and the entire Target organization for welcoming us into their facility. This is the third time Target has hosted us, and so we're excited for their beautiful facility, their support, their active engagement, and the flow of the event has been flawless. So I want to thank them for all they did to ensure that this worked well for us. And for the breakouts, in this room, we will be having the session, Effective Performance Conversations, so that panel discussion. So if you're in this room and that's the session that you signed up for, you will stay here. If you signed up for Demystifying Executive Presence, you will go to the room next door. If you are in Zoom and you're attending the panel discussion, Effective Performance Conversations, you will stay in this Zoom link. If you're going to Demystifying Executive Presence, there's a separate link that I added that in chat. So you can hit that link and you can go to that session. And once that session's over, you'll transition back to this room for the rest of the program. Are there any questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Black members of the corporate team. Plenty of people in the field, working warehouses, doing the work every day. But from our corporate team structure, I was the only one. So I felt like I had to show up well, right? So I worked twice as hard, right? Because I felt that's what I had to do. But the reality was, when I came into the job, they gave me a job description, right? And what I had to ask my manager was like, wait, what are you actually expecting of me in this role? Right? And if you can quantify, we talked about the pink suit before, right? I did these things because that was the part of the job and I accomplished them and I'm following up throughout the course of the year. Great, I don't have to work twice as hard. I have to deliver the right results. Right? So sometimes that pressure is a little bit artificial we put on ourselves, right? But if you still find the fact, right, that you're having to work twice as hard to get the same feedback, right? Twice as hard to get the same responses from leadership, then that means that you have maybe another conversation to have, right? You may need other partners outside of just your direct manager, right? To advocate for you and give you good advice on how to handle that, right? Because a lot of times Maybe your direct manager doesn't have the advice to give back, right? Or they may have expectations that you haven't aligned on perfectly with them, right? But having that conversation early into a role is important. So you don't overextend yourself doing something that actually isn't the value you're supposed to be bringing to the company.
Great, thanks, Willie. And this question was organized really well because it feeds into the next question. What if it's a little bit different, Courtney? What if you feel like it's discriminatory? What if you feel like it's just not, the person doesn't like me, but they don't like me because of my race?
Yeah. So I would say document. So, when I've been in situations where I feel like something's just not right. So make sure you're not in that boat alone. So I'm a person who takes notes and maybe not taking notes in the meeting, but like, and I tell people this, I'm like, that's how I receive information. That's how I learn. So I take a lot of notes and, I make sure, back to the clarity piece, that if we'd agreed on something or around my priorities, or if somebody I'm really feeling like is shady and I don't trust, I will send a follow-up. Like, this is the meeting, this is what we discussed, so therefore it's then like confirmation, like this is, with my manager, like this is the one-to-one, the feedback you gave me. So then if things don't start matching up, you at least have like a little bit of a paper trail. If you get to the end of your performance review, I have coached people on times where I'm like, you might need to just like go through your review with HR just so they can kind of be in with you in the boat. And I think we have a question later, but this is where I think having mentors and people that you trust in the organization that can kind of help you navigate and guide, because it's not necessarily easy in those situations. But I also make sure there's to Karmin's point, make sure you have other people that are advocating for you, supporting you, that are not your direct manager, that are in leadership positions. I sit in a lot of rooms where if I feel like something is amiss, I know enough about that individual where I can ask some clarifying questions to just really get to the root. And like I was in a meeting just the other day and I was like, so if that was a man, we would be saying those things, like those characteristics, be the same qualities we would be calling out as an issue. So just like, if you don't have other people in the boat with you, if I didn't have a line of sight to that individual and be part of the discussions where they have flagged for me, like, I don't think my manager's really being fair in their assessment. So then I can kind of on the side just be like, not that they know that I know anything or something, I can just ask some questions and then put it out there so that other people can be forced to like put a little mirror up and say, oh, that does feel a little off. So you need to have other people in the boat with you. Don't try to navigate that stuff on your own. And I've heard people, and I've never had to do this personally, but in our old process, back when there was like paper, you had to actually like sign your review and say like, I agree to. Some people, I would like, don't sign anything. If there's stuff on that paper that you don't agree with, I wouldn't sign anything. Some people act like just because somebody put something in front of you or you're in a meeting or something, I'm like, if I don't agree with something, or I'm like, I don't like that doesn't really ring true to me, then I would say like, I want to just take this back and reflect on it. Like, it's okay to like in the meeting say, okay, I think there's some things that I'm not necessarily aligned with. I want to take that back. And then there'll be times where I'll take it to one of my mentors, or if I have I have friends in HR, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of something that I think something's amiss, and I don't think it's necessarily fair. And yeah, so main message, get support. Don't try to navigate that on your own. Do not be afraid to, I think, have HR involved, and also just involving a mentor, somebody you trust, being on cross-functional teams, having that sponsorship at different levels will pay dividends in those situations.
Yeah.
Can I add a couple?
Please.
So there were a couple things that I was going to add. Number one, I think that there's also some code words too. I've had some of these. Karmin is not on board. Karmin, I'm trying to think of another one, but not on board is something that I've heard before. Team player, right? So I'm like, interesting. So, and it specifically happened, with one individual who had a lot of pull, a lot of influence. And so literally, and it's going to be work, but after every meeting, business team meetings or what have you, if I felt like I was going to be not on board, then I would go talk to my manager and I say, hey, we had a really good discussion, really good productive discourse. And I want to let you know some of the things that happened in there. And I really got my manager aligned, my director aligned. But then I also want to know who has the influence for that person, who has the influence in the room, and what are they incentivized by? And so when those people started to align with me, or align with my message, I should say, right? And you're focusing on the facts and what is the thing to be done, then I think it makes it harder for you to be not on board. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, yeah, and I would add too, that's why that conversation about aligning with what are our goals? What are my goals? How are you gonna help me from a direct manager perspective? What do I need to do differently? And getting that alignment at the beginning is so important. And then having other people know this is what they're expected to do. Because I've been in those conversations where they're like, I don't know. The person, they're not good at building relationships. Well, she has a relationship with everybody else in this room. Maybe the relationship with you is not good. But now I can unpack that a little bit more. I also know they've been performing the whole time. I've been seeing them. They're doing great. All great stuff. So what's happened? What changed, right? It empowers your partners to actually challenge some of those discriminatory and biases, right? Because ultimately they know you're performing, right? Let the work speak for itself, right? But I think it's easier to do that when you're constantly tracking it. It's easier to document in the moment. So if you're continuously having feedback conversation on the situation, you can bring that to maybe your HR partner. Be like, so out the course of this last year, at this situation pop up, this situation pop up, this situation pop up. Like, what's the deal here, right? That doesn't align with anything I'm seeing in my work performance, and yet I'm still not getting these opportunities. I'm still getting challenged in ways that aren't fair, but that evidence piles up, right? So I think it's helpful to have that and have those constant conversations because it just makes it easier to equip to have the difficult one later when you feel like you're not being treated fairly.
You should have a relationship with your HR partner that is good before anything. Like we're switching out HR partners. I already asked my friend, like, oh, do you know her? So like HR has a lot of influence and they can be very helpful. So I meet with my HR partner monthly. Like that is just part of my relationship that you need to have, that you need to build. And you should not wait till there's a problem to be having that partnership with HR. And it doesn't necessarily have to be HR in your specific structure, but having a good friend or somebody that knows what goes on behind the curtain of HR is super helpful, in my opinion.
Got 3 comments and then we have something in the chat.
Yeah, we've got a question in the chat that's very timely given this conversation. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but is there anything else you'd add when thinking about working for a manager that struggles to give you honest and constructive feedback to help you prove your importance? I know you talked about the importance of mentors, partners. Is there anything else that you want to add? Your performance, if they're hesitant and unable to give you that honest and constructive feedback.
I can start with that one. So I think it was one of the prep questions. So I think this is why it's so critical for Black professionals to help each other, because I have found that my Black mentors or people of color mentors will give you the straight, clear feedback that is sometimes hurts when you hear it. But so I think having some people in your corner, and like I said, sometimes it's like, so I'm afraid to ask. Sometimes when I ask some of my truth tellers is what I call them. But I think having some people that know you well enough, can feel confident to speak to you in a language that maybe like a white man. So what I've seen, and Karmin, we've seen this too, is where everyone's so afraid you're gonna go like angry Black woman that they won't tell you, right? So you'll be in the meeting and like something happens, and then instead of trying to like give it to you straight, like that did not go well, they like talk around it, and then you can't really make any actionable changes from that. And so I try to make sure that I have some people in the room or people that I'm interacting with that will give me like the real, like, Courtney, like that was like, that did not go well, like this is what good looks like. Because I don't think you can, I mean, you know, and I've had a lot of managers, I'm sure we all have, like half have been pretty good, have had a few excellent, but generally speaking, I think you can't expect your manager is going to be the one to always be the one. Peer coaches are also awesome. Peers are usually in more meetings with you. They see you more often. So when I'm particularly working on something, I will work with a peer. Like I'm peer coaching right now. Two of us both got promoted to officer just last month. We are peer coaching each other. We're in meetings together, you know, and I'm like taking notes on what she's doing. I'm giving her feedback after, and that's the kind of stuff that is to me more valuable than my manager that's not even in the meeting. He's going to hear three levels away what happened. And then I have like one sponsor that I got really lucky where she is very direct and like has told me things that, like I said, one time she told me something, I was like, oh, it hurt. Like I was like, that was really, oh, it was real. And it was the truth. And it was more of a like, this is a perception. I don't know if, I always say there's truth in everybody's perceptions because it's how they see you. And so having some people at higher levels that can say like, I think we talked about it earlier, like, I heard this about you. I'm like, where'd you hear that? And that's like, it flows through the org. And so having some people out there that are like at different levels in the org, I learned the most from my mentees because they're at levels where they hear things that people will never elevate to me and tell me. So they'll tell me like, oh, that town hall you did, like we did not understand. And that wasn't a good, and I'm like, oh, thank you, and people at the plants, so I think you just need to make sure you're getting feedback at all levels because the farther up you go, the less feedback you will get. So you have to seek it out. You have to be open to it and then reward people for doing it or they won't do it. So if it's someone tells you something and you're all offended and defensive, then they're not going to keep bringing it to you. So making sure that when someone tells me, I say, thank you so much. And I even like my sponsors and mentors, I take them to coffee and like, hey, can you just give me some feedback on these things and making sure that I'm keeping that information flowing, make it easy for them to want to give you that feedback.
Great, thank you. 3 quick thoughts and then we'll
question back
transition to
there.
in-person questions. First one is different than new black. That's kind of my perspective. Don't quite a fit. Well, is that just mean I'm black? The other thing is representation matters. So having you or someone in the room, whether they're of the same race or just an ally, to say that doesn't feel right, definitely adds value. And then bring your old self, because as you hear, we did this in our opening slide, but this is an honest conversation. So you can say shady in this room, right? It's okay. All right, so we'll
Courtney said truth tellers. I don't call them truth tellers. I call them edge snatchers. So I was gonna say she is an edge snatcher. Don't get it twisted. But that's really important. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So we're open to questions. I'm sorry, I think I answered my phone.
I just wanted to add on to that one, to the question from online. What about if your manager is not that supportive of you? Then how are you able to, because it's gotten to the point where I've kind of pushed back on her so often where I feel like we should be moving forward and she's so stuck in her ways where I'm just kind of like, we need to keep going. And she's just like, well, you got it. It's okay. And I'm just like, I don't have 27 years like you do. I'm trying to get there. Like, so how do you go about that without, I've been called that I come off aggressive, and it's not that I come off aggressive because I'm not even a loud person, but I'm just like, I'm just trying to be in there. Like I'm trying to succeed and move on to the next step. But how do you get them to meet you halfway?
So I'm a big proponent of the phrase, help me understand. And I need examples, right? So I feel like a lot of feedback is very general. You're doing good. You're doing, this might need improvement. I always need an example. I'm really intentional with my manager around examples. He knows if there's some feedback over here, he better have an example to back it up because I need that so I can improve. So I think if you're coming from a place, and I do understand it sounds like there's a very specific relationship there with your manager that you're working through. And I think you've been here for 5 months, right? So I would go in with something, I would say that this has helped me. Hey, manager, can you help me understand how I performed in this situation? Or how I could show up differently, or what is the expectation there? And can you give me some examples of how you've seen that in me, or maybe seen it in other folks on our team? Because I want to make sure that I am getting the best out of this conversation, the best out of my performance. So, yeah.
make sure that the virtual meetings are.
I have used those questions, like how can I perform? Can you give me more examples, more details of what I'm doing? And but I'm not getting anything still. I've had to go to HR to the point where I'm like, we are at a standstill. We're in the same place for the last 4 months. So I'm just trying to
I have some
maybe.
questions, or maybe this could be after the panel discussion. Is this person have a lot of influence in the org? I don't know that, does she have influence?
She not really.
Okay, so, and we can talk after, but what I would say is, you know, I've had a couple situations where I'm like, you know, I've had a bad manager. They're just not good managers. They don't, not good leaders of people, and they're not really good at their jobs. Fine, but they've been there 30 years, and I'm not gonna change that. So, you know, I feel like you got to figure out how to move around and through. What is sophisticated in a sophisticated fashion, not sneaky, but I think, you know, at some point you can't push it up by yourself at the end of the day. And so I think being clear about the limitation, you know, I learned something from every manager. Sometimes I learn I will never do X, Y, and Z. And I just take that in my little mental box. Then I also figure out, like, I still have to get work done and I still have to be successful. Like I've had conversations where I'm like, I don't know if I can just wait this person out or like, what's the plan? But this is not going to be a long-term situation. So in those situations, I would say you're probably not the first and probably not the only. So, you know, when I first joined General Mills, I came as a external hire. I had a terrible manager, terrible experience, and I hated every day of it. And I thought, I was like, I'll be here for a year and I'm leaving because I'm not paying the reload back. So I'm gonna stay here a year and I'm gonna leave it. And I called my mom and I was like, I think I'm awesome and they don't know that I'm awesome and I don't know why. And one of my peers, an African-American woman, was doing pretty well. Like she was pretty successful. So I finally just like took her to lunch and she was just like, yeah, you were doing it all wrong. Like this is, you know, typically there's some like written rules or something that people have navigated around this person. And she basically helped me like navigate around. And it wasn't me doing anything necessarily different. It was just these small nuances and how he liked to see things. And there was some like unfairness and some other things. And then I had enough support from other managers to rally around me that eventually I got promoted out of his org, and he worked for me at one point later in my career and was like insubordinate. I almost fired him. And it was like, see, this is what I'm saying. But anyway, I say that to say that there's probably some people that have figured it out, how to navigate around that person and have the secret sauce to at least get you to a point where you can be effective and that they're not, you know, I'm like, everybody doesn't need to be a Courtney fan, but I don't need you to be a derailer, right? And I don't need you to be a blocker. So it's like, how can I get you? Because at the end of the day, there's something that manager wants or needs or is motivated by. And I always feel like once you figure out like what's really motivating people and like I said, I know it's not like in a manipulative way, but it's informative. So then you know how to work with so people that like when I could tell what somebody's about, even if I don't like it, I appreciate it. So now I know what you're about and now I know how I need to work with you. So I think like really trying to get a little bit to the questions of Karmin said, like help you understand, but you need to really understand that person because there's something that motivates them. And if you can give them a little bit about what they need, that might help you get a little bit about what you need. Like I am not like, I had a manager that was like, it had to be his idea. So you know what, fine. I'll make it like, if you want to go in front of the team, making sure it's your idea, I'm fine. Like if that's what makes it work for you right now, great. And, you know, I can navigate and move around that. So just figuring that out, I think could be helpful, but I can chat with you after if there's more specific questions.
That's a great segue into this one. We have a question in the chat and it says, are there instances when a manager feels their staff are better than them and are not willing to give them the support they need to grow career-wise? In both scenarios, what can the staff and manager do?
So I think this is something that, I mean, I don't think I've had this directly happen because I've been fortunate enough to have people who are like, hey, we want you to get promoted. But occasionally you do get the ego situation where I've had meetings where I can tell on another team's dynamic that maybe, you know, their manager's not comfortable with them being so talkative. and we're putting all these ideas out there. And this goes back to like having that relationship with people beyond just that direct manager as well, right? Who may very well be your advocate and also look to saying, yeah, we really love to promote within the organization. Back to the previous question too, and it ties into it, is the idea of sometimes they're not really the decision maker for the future of your career. So if you know what your goals are, right, that person may be trying to derail it, but they're not the ultimate decision maker, right? So getting other partners outside of just your direct manager who are going to advocate for you is so important, because when you're providing that value and it's documented and it's good, right, you can sometimes go to other people and say, listen, I'm not getting where I need to in this section. I'm trying to work with my manager here. I'm not making the progress I need to make, right? And you can move through that. Now, you're also gonna have to have honest conversations, and this is where trust comes in. Now, don't know for the person who's asking the question, if they have a relationship with their manager to talk to them about, we're in this conversation. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think I'm doing the right thing, but I get the impression from the conversation that maybe I'm stepping on toes. I don't want to do that. I want to give you honest, like, just let me know. Am I doing anything incorrect? Am I handling this the incorrect way, right? If you have that trust with your manager, it's easier to have that conversation. If you don't have that trust, all right, people might start getting defensive, right? So I think it's one of those things that you establish early on, and even know if it's even possible to have that conversation and then try to figure out, is that really the case? Am I doing something wrong? Am I handling the situation differently? What is the thing you would like to see, right? And then see if that aligns with what you're trying to do for your career as well. Because like I said, sometimes it's not an option of they're going to work with you. Sometimes they're going to try to derail it, and you have to find other partners who can help you stay on track.
Great, thanks, Willie. One thing I would just kind of highlight is kind of hope, because Courtney shared a very similar example, and she's a company officer now. And so don't let those things kind of derail you and prevent you from achieving your goals, and continue to have your line of sight to what your ultimate goals are. I do want to call out the fact that we have about 7 minutes left in the session. We have one question here, and then it sounds like we have another question in chat. Is that right? No? Okay, so we have 2 questions in the room.
Hi, my question is for Courtney or anyone else on the panel. When you were talking, you spoke about navigating around someone. And can you just give some examples of how you've done that, or how you've seen someone do that where it's been successful? What are some powerful ways to navigate around someone?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to kind of what I alluded to. So, you know, I grew up in manufacturing. So I'm an electrical engineer by trade. Not many women in that field. And at the time, like, typically I was like the only one or whatever. And so I wasn't necessarily always felt the support and advocacy from my managers. But so I'll say a couple things. Usually what I found is if a manager is really not competent or really not good, you're not the only one that knows that. And I'm talking about at higher levels as well. No one will, now other managers won't say that maybe as explicit, but typically it's known. So typically, like, so for me, you know, when I was coming in as like a 25-year-old engineer, there was like a leadership team, right? So there's like my manager and these people that other managers in different functions on the leadership team. And so typically when I talk about navigating around, one, that goes back to the HR relationship. So, you know, always having good relationship with HR, because like they're typically aware if there's somebody having issues, because other people, like I said, other people usually complain or it's been brought up. So having them in the boat with you, and sometimes the processes can take longer than you would like, but to be honest, like most of the people that I really, really struggled with eventually got moved out of the org or marginalized in a way that were just, they didn't have much influence or at some point. And so I would say like finding partners in other managers. And sometimes you do that by, like I was like Karmin, I got on a lot of different committees and teams where I had access to people in like work, but not necessarily like a project setting sometimes. So it was like, hey, we're gonna go volunteer at Habitat for Humanity or whatever. I'm gonna go do that. I get to interface with the leadership or the plant manager at the time. And so when you get those relationships going, then you open up the door for mentorship and other things. And then you can kind of like figure out how to share like, hey, I would love your, I had a plant manager that I really trusted. And I said, I would love your advice. I'm really struggling with my manager. And could you help me navigate? Could you help me? And then that puts them in a position where they're like, oh, I want to help you. They want to help you. So then they get a win because they get to help you. Then on the side, they're probably coaching that manager on some things as well. So, I mean, there's ways that you can do it that it doesn't have to come across like you're because when you come in at a place, it's like, I want this relationship to work, and it's not slamming the person. It's like, I'm challenged with it. So any advice that you can give me, so you're not like throwing out and like, he sucks. It's like, hey, I'm struggling and I want help. And then that gets other people in the vote to want to help. And then as part of those conversations, you can start to share little tidbits and things of like, hey, this is the kind of feedback I'm getting. Are you noticing these things? So that's ways that I've seen people navigate it and it not be like career limiting for them. Now, I think if you're like going around and every time you have a problem with your manager, slamming them, and I tell my team, like, I'm not nobody's mom. I got one child, she's at home. So I always ask people, like, have you tried to address it on your own? And it like really tried. And because I had a manager that I really like, he did not like me, I did not like him. We really struggled, like really, really struggled. Now this is one of my dear friends. Like, I spent holidays at his house. I had to really invest in their relationship. He was very, influential in the company and a really good man. Like, deep down, we just like started off really bad and it was just a bad situation. And so once we got, but I can tell you, I put work and invest in it, and I found people that he had good relationships with. I met with them and I was like, tell me what do y'all talk about? Like, what do you see in him that I'm not seeing? Because I don't like it. They were like, so and they would tell me and now I see in him what I didn't see 20 years ago. And so, but it took like some investment of my time, and I had to really work at it and do some self-reflection on like, how did I approach the situation? And maybe I was coming in a little hot, coming in with and like how I approached him. And so it put both of us on edge. So I think some self-reflection is necessary. I think if it's a really important relationship, I think sometimes we can't just give up and say, well, I'm just not gonna like them and it's just gonna be a problem. I think sometimes you have to say, maybe I do need to invest in this relationship and figure it out. And I usually try to find like, who is this person's like best friend at work, or like somebody they really, really have a relationship with. And I go meet with them and I tell them like, hey, I'm like really upfront, like, I'm struggling with this person, but I respect you and I see that you really do have a connection with them. Like, tell me, like, what do you guys talk about? What does he really enjoy? And how do are there any connections that we can make that way? And like I said, this person like is a dear friend of mine. And if anybody like today, people would not even know that we started off so terribly.
Great, thank you, Courtney. So we're getting close to the end of the session. We're going to take one other question, then we'll allow the panelists to do closing remarks.
Thank you all for being here. My question, you guys talked a lot about bringing your manager along the journey throughout the year when you're talking about managing performance. And as you get to higher levels in the company, your leaders are often, removed from more of the day-to-day. And so my question is, how do you tell them about not just the what, but the how, but also, you keep it at a level where like, it's not super technical where they can follow, right? Like it's, that's something I've been struggling with.
I've been talking about myself. I'll let somebody else.
Yeah, I think we're, as I was moving up too, like, so work on a warehouse floor for a while, talk about tactical things a lot, right? Here's your production, here's how we did performance. So as I get over into senior manager level, of course, my manager's like working on bigger projects. I'm working on bigger projects too. So you have to suddenly start trying to condense down what were the deliverables? What did I get accomplished, right? And now if your manager wants to know more about it, they'll ask questions, right? They're going to start probing into it. Okay, like, well, tell me a little bit more about that, right? You give them the context so they can go report back up to what you've accomplished. You have to give them enough information that they can say, yes, I understand what you did and how you influenced it, right? And I can advocate and share that with other people and they can understand it as well, right? Because that's what you're really, get into their mind. Like, here's how I approach the problem, right? So I think summarizing it in that way helps. right? Now, of course, when you do have those tactical details and they want to know more, be prepared for that, right? Be prepared to get to that information if they do ask. But ultimately, knowing that you have the deliverables of what you were trying to accomplish and how you went about that as a summary is the key there, right? The key bullet points they can share with other people. That usually turns out to be very successful for them because sometimes they will go to other leaders and they don't know their business area either. So if you give them all that information, all the details, the other group, they don't know what that means. I'm like, okay, it sounds cool. I don't know. Sure, great. But when you just talk about at least what the goal was and how you're approaching that, they're like, oh, they accomplished that. Get it, right? And tying it back to the company strategy as well and saying, yeah, that's what we were trying to go after. And they seem to be a key player to that.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. Key takeaways. What would you like our attendees to lead with? I'll start with you, Karmin.
Yeah. So again, thanks everyone for all the great questions today. You know, one of the things that I was thinking about really, great performance is table stakes. Like you got to have that. When great performance is being served, opportunities will always come to the table. Okay, but you have to start there. So that's kind of my key takeaway on that.
I'm gonna go off script and I want to just comment on your question, then I'll shut up. So one of the things, and I don't remember what book it is, I read a lot of books, but they call this like the whole umbrella. I forget what it, but it's like your manager's up here, right? And you have your umbrella up. And so if you're just under the umbrella doing all your work, they have no idea what's going on. So good managers will look under the umbrella and like check in. Regular managers are going to let you just stay under the umbrella. So what I have found is people that are perceived to have better performance are bringing their manager under that umbrella more often. So that could look like, I'm working on a really tough problem. I want to bring you under the umbrella and let's brainstorm some different suggestions or ideas or whatever of how to go after that. That does a couple things. Gives them a little bit of insight in terms of like, what are the stuff you're working on? And then they're helping you, which we like to do. We always want to be helpful. They're helping you with the problem, and then giving them line of sight to once you get to the awesome result, like to show. So it shows all that through just like opening up that umbrella. Because a lot of us, people of color and women, we just put our head down and stand under the umbrella, and we wonder why nobody's coming under there telling us how awesome we are. And like I will tell you, as a leader, the people that bring me under their umbrella and help me just like, not all the time, but like bring me into their world about this is the tough things that I'm challenged with. So then what I take away is like at the end of the year, it's like, man, Karmin had this really tough problem. She brought me under the umbrella and we got through it and had great results. Otherwise, it would just be on some paper at the end of the thing that this was her result. And I would never have gone through the process of understanding like how complex the issue was, you know, what really was involved in getting it done, because we have no idea. Like I tell people all the time, if I ask you something and it's like gonna take 10 days, tell me that, because I have no idea. Like I just don't know, because we get so far removed from stuff sometimes. So sometimes you gotta be more clear about like, this is a big project I'm working on. Let me show you like all the things, the people that I had to coordinate, get it done. So thank you for having me. It's really been a pleasure.
Great insight. Willie.
Yeah, and kind of a theme here I've noticed too, and I think that a good takeaway is that you want to make sure that you understand your influence in your organization goes beyond even your direct manager, right? When you're delivering results, you're delivering results for organization of people, most likely. Meaning that there are other people who also are getting the benefit of some of the results you provided. So have them be your partners, right? Make sure you're connecting with those people, that next layer out, right? Not direct, but they're close, right? And continue to extend that. It makes the conversations and later on much easier, and you have those advocates for yourself, right? So if you run into those things that might try to derail you directly in your line, you can kind of go around that, right? We talk about navigating the space. So look to your left, look to your right, look up and down and find out who are the people I can connect with to make sure that I always continue to move forward in my career.
Great, thank you. Outstanding job. Please join me in a round of applause for our panelists. So we do have a small token of our appreciation for the panel. So thank you guys. Latana, can we go to the next slide? I'll go ahead and do the transition to lunch.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And in today's world where everything is instant, I get it. Grubhub and all these different ways where we're used to these things happening overnight, that's not how this works. And that's tough for a lot of people, especially if you're younger and you're used to things happening overnight. That won't happen here. One, be patient with yourself. Two, take the time to grow, and growing is painful. There's nobody that you will see that's in a role that's successful
that doesn't have some bumps and bruises and a story to tell you. And so you have to define your own story and you have to actually go on that journey. The last part I want to talk about is success. Success comes in a lot of different forms. It's not just money and a title. And so what I would share with you is define success for yourself. Don't let the world define it for you. I think when I help young people, where they fall into a trap is what they've heard from their families, friends of what they think success is, and they're trying to fit inside of this avatar that's not truly who they are. And we're going to talk a bit about that today as well. I want to make sure I'm using the clicker right. All right, boom, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. All right, a little bit about me. My current title is I'm a senior manager for sales enablement, but you'll see I've been doing leadership for over 20 years. And the one thing that I would tell you that I'm most proud of is I've developed over hundreds people and promoted over hundreds people. And for me, that has been my calling card. I'm a servant leader. And so for me, leadership is deeply personal. It's one of those things that you put and you invest in. It's not because you're asked, it's because it's the right thing to do. But if leading is about your title, then you're not a leader. I always tell people, if you run down a hill and nobody goes with you, you ain't leading because ain't nobody following, right? They have to want to follow you and you have to earn that. And so it's got to be a two-way street. And so servant leadership is what I choose to use and it's never, ever done me wrong. It's always been the way to do it. I didn't put this on the slide, but I figured I should share so that you could trust me a little bit while I'm presenting. One, I am a family. I come from a family of 9. I'm one of 9. I have a twin sister. I am originally from Niagara Falls, New York, but I've been in Minnesota for over 20 years. I have 4 amazing boys from age 20 down to 15. Last 2 are twins, and funny enough, I have a twin sister. So I wasn't supposed to get the twins. I was told anyways, but God was like, yeah, Yahtzee, here you go. But they're great. And so a little bit about me as well. All right, so when Solomon gave me this topic and I attempted to make it simple because I'm all about making things digestible, there's a couple of things I realized. This comes in 2 different forms. It comes in mentorship and sponsorship, and it also comes in your passions versus your gifts. Before I go further and talk about what that really looks like, I think it's important for you to understand that your path is yours and it has to be authentic. And if you find yourself struggling in your role, it may not be some trick that you can do that's going to change that. It might be that you're in the wrong path for yourself. And I want to be able to show you that as we go today. As you'll see, it says passion versus gifts versus when you look at mentorship, I didn't do a verse. Instead, I said sponsorship because they really should be the same. If you earn that mentor's, if you earn it with that mentor, they will become your sponsor. I always hear people say, they're not the same. Well, you're not wrong, but they should be. And if you did your job as a mentee, that mentor will then say, I sign off on you and I will sponsor you. If they're not sponsoring you, you didn't do your job and you didn't own your own success for your career, you expected somebody else to do that for you. All right, there's 7.8 billion people in the world. I'll tell you why I share this. In today's world, we're told, go big, go wide. But the problem is then you only go an inch deep because you only have so much capacity. But that's what you see on social media. You see it on LinkedIn, 6,000 friends. I'm not knocking anybody who's got 6,000 friends. Good for you. I hope they're really your friends, right? Same thing on Facebook, but here's the problem. If you ask somebody, how did you get there? They're gonna tell you about one person. They're not gonna tell you about that many. It's crazy. Nobody's gonna tell you about the 50 people that helped them get somewhere. There's one person that changed somebody's life, and that's always been the way it has been. And so as you try to navigate our society and what the reality is deep, meaningful relationships are real mentorships that unlock real doors with real conversations where you truly grow. Talking to everybody and getting everybody's advice, you will move nowhere. You'll move nowhere because you're trying to make everybody happy except at yourself. And again, this is your career, not someone else's. So there's 3 things you got to really think about. If you're going to ask for somebody to be your mentor, you can't come empty-handed. What do I want? You got to be clear. You got to have a goal. No one can mentor you if you don't know where you're going. It's just that simple. Second question, when do I want it by? I told you I have 4 boys. If I told them they had 30 days to clean their room, not one person would move. Not one. That's just not how it works, right? But I'm like, you got an hour of coming upstairs. An hour of that room is spick and span. So when do you want it by? And remember, don't put too much pressure on yourself. You should be realistic, but at the same time, set some level of a goal. And the last thing, and this is probably the most important, why do you want it? I would tell you I've mentored hundreds of people, and if your why is weak, I won't deal with you. Simple as that. And I'll tell you why. Your what and when can change, but your why won't. It's the center, it's what's your core, it's what's driving you. And if it's driving you is money, you'll fail. I assure you, or you'll hate life. Your why is everything. And so if you come to a mentor and your why is not compelling, it's just a matter of time before that plan falls apart. That much I can assure you. I thought this would be a good moment to give you a personal story about when I was 20 years old, Hal. And I was a supervisor at Best Buy, and I had fallen into the success. I guess I like electronics and talking to people. And they were like, you know, you're really good at this. You should be a supervisor. And at that time in my career, I was young. I was unprofessional, and I was coming to work late and not dressed very well. And I remember my general manager at the time, who was a white dude who was very conservative and a military dude, it was time for him to fire me, quite honestly. Pulls me in a room and he says, I should fire you today. Here's your write-ups. Like, you're late, you're a supervisor, you're supposed to be a leader, and you can't get here on time. You're not an example. He's like, I'm not firing you today. I'm like, wait, what? He was like, you're that good. I'm not going to fire you today. He was like, but I am personally mentoring you. And every week we're sitting down, and he wasn't messing around. I mean, he was not messing around. Like, he was on me every single week. We had real conversations about what I was really going to do. And we set real goals with deadlines. When I was buying new clothes, how early I was going to be. And trust me, when I say he was on me, he was at the door waiting for me to walk in. I'm like, Lord have mercy, this man is serious. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I would tell you that I was 21. I was 20 when that happened. By the time I was 21, I was a sales manager, making $55,000 a year, $55,000 a year. And this was back in 2000. I'm sorry, back in 2000 this happened. So that was much more money today than it was then. Back then, I'm like, I'm balling, right? But this all happened because somebody saw something in me, but it started with discipline and structure, and it wasn't fun conversations. He's still a mentor to me to this day, right? But you'd be surprised if somebody takes the time to see your potential, but you have to do the work. They can't do it for you. As a coach, you don't get to get on the floor and do it for your team. You can give them all the direction you want. You can tell them all the plans, but if they don't show up, they don't practice, they're going to fail. They can't execute. It's just that simple. But it only takes one person to change everything for you. One, not a ton, just one person who you have a real relationship with. Here's the flip side of that. So that's the mentee. Let me tell you about mentors. This is how you pick one. One is somebody who's been where you are and are where you want to be. Because if they don't understand where you're trying to get to, it's hard for a mentor to truly help you navigate that. That makes sense. I would say find a bit about them, like, do they volunteer their time? That's a very good sign that they like to do good and that they'll be patient and have some grace with you. And the last thing is, can they have a candid conversation? Most people in business struggle having an honest, real dialogue. And that's where the growth really happens. It's not when it's easy. It's when you know you're messing up and you need somebody to kind of say, you said you were going to get this done by this time and you didn't. Please help me understand why. And this is the third time it's happened. And if it doesn't get uncomfortable, you're not growing. It's just that simple. Ultimately, these are your goals, but that's the best way to pick a mentor so that marriage really comes together. And that part's really important because if there's no real conversation, there's no real trust. Last part is I would say that they have capacity. There is nothing worse than picking a mentor that looks good on paper that has no time for you. I say it again. Sometimes we pick mentors because they're in these big titles. They don't have capacity, and you pick them because it looks good. You know, Gerald over here interviewing me, he's VP. I'm like, when was the last time you seen Gerald? 4 years ago. That's not the point. The point is Jiro, no, he's not. Jiro is not mentoring nobody, right? Like stop that, right? That's a bad decision. It says you don't know where you're going. Pick somebody that you can touch that's real for you. My mom was a mentor for me. That was a real person. That was my mama, right? Like that's a real person that was going to invest in me and wanted what I wanted, maybe as bad as I wanted it. And if your mentor doesn't want that and they can't make time for you, then they're not your mentor. You have a bad plan because you have not the right person who really will help you get where you're trying to get to. Which brings me to my next point. Sponsorship versus mentorship. Now, I alluded to this earlier. It's clear that mentors are different than sponsors, but I try to call out a couple of things here. Sponsors promote and they advocate. Here's the thing. You bring them a plan and you do it. You do every single thing you said you were going to do along the way. And then you ask them if they will sponsor you. And if not, what can I do for you to feel comfortable sponsoring me? It's not fair to just bring them that you're jumping to a new job and you like them to be your reference. That's not fair to that mentor. It's uncomfortable, actually, right? You should first be asking, have I done everything that I said I was going to do to make you feel comfortable enough sponsoring me and advocating for me? Truth be told is if you're doing those things, they're saying things for you already without even telling you because they're so impressed. I always said this, if they can't see you as their peer, you haven't done enough. If you haven't convinced them that you could be their peer, that you could sit in a room with them, that you could even make them better, then they're not going to sponsor you. And that conversation is uncomfortable. But what you can't do is then show up asking them to be a referral when they're not ready to put their name on you because you didn't do the work. And again, I started with this owning, meaning you own it. They don't own that. It's not their job to tell you, you haven't done anything you said you was going to do. You know you didn't do it. You're just chasing some dollars. And don't ask me to throw my integrity away because you want more money. You'll put yourself in a situation you're not ready, and I'm not signing off on that. And most good mentors won't. You just have to have the self-awareness to know why you're not being sponsored. Now, I told you this was tricky. So when I tried to unpack this whole thing, I realized that there's two pieces to this. There's certainly this. You notice I didn't talk about networking and all that stuff because not that networking's bad, but what if I'm introverted? And that's just not my thing. So every time I need to grow, I got to get uncomfortable, go to a room with a bunch of people that already are in cliques, and that's the only way I can grow. That's just not the truth. The truth is your mentor is probably right in front of you. They probably work right next to you. They may not look like you. A lot of times your mentor may not be another person of color on some real stuff. Like seriously, I don't know why we think they always have to be Black or somebody who looks like us. Sometimes they will look different. And matter of fact, that's good because that's where diversity of thought really comes in. And it stays professional. So here's the next piece of this. I threw together, did you know? And I'll tell you why I thought this would be a good role for us to go down. 50% people report that they feel stressed at their job. Only 15% say they're engaged in their jobs. It's more likely to have a heart attack on a Monday than any other day of the week. When do most people go to work? Mondays. But then the last part, 75% of employees conceal their identity at work. Now you can say, does that mean not bringing their full selves to work? What I would tell you that means is perhaps they're not living within their gifts. And typically your gifts give you energy. But if you're doing something, because a lot of us are domesticated in a way of you're 18, go to college. I don't even know who I am. Follow your passion. We've been getting told that since the beginning. But sometimes that can mislead us. Passion is what you love. Gifts are who you are. You get to pick this. You don't get to pick your gifts. You simply don't. And I'll give you a real example of this. That's a gift. So I'll give you a real example of this. I'm going to use somebody who's popular so the example is easy. Does everybody know who Michael Jordan is? Of course you do. Michael Jordan, right? The GOAT. Okay, cool. You know, all right, cool. So you know Michael Jordan, you know his sneakers? Still best-selling sneaker, 20 years. Now, If I told you Michael Jordan's gift was fashion, you would say, no, it ain't, because you would be right. Michael Jordan's gift was basketball. And did you know when Michael Jordan first started wearing those sneakers, one, Nike was a running shoe. They weren't a basketball sneaker. Let me start there. Two, he was fined $5,000 every time he wore those shoes. Today, the NBA pays him for you to wear his shoes on an NBA court. It's a real thing. His passion was fashion. But because we loved his gift, we watched him. We all wanted to be like Mike. I cut my head bald in high school when he retired. We was crazy over MJ. I named my son Jordan. I'm not joking. It's a real thing. That's not even for this example. It's a real thing. We were that obsessed with Michael Jordan. So anything he touched became magic, including his sneakers. That's not his passion. Nike runs his brand. I mean, that's not his gift. I'm sorry. That's his passion. Nike runs the Jordan label. His gifts opened those doors for him. Michael tried playing baseball. He did. And he tries to golf and he tries to gamble. Not his gifts. Love the dude. They're not his gifts. On the basketball court, forget about it. Now you add intensity and consistency, he's unstoppable. He was already gifted. Now you add his intensity and his consistency, and that's why you get 6 championships, and we talk about them still to this day. But the Michael Jordan brand, make no mistake about it, is not his gift. It was absolutely his passion. See, what happens is you start chasing the passion, and nobody's going to tell you you're not really good at that thing. I think about today. Our kids play sports. I know because I have 4. Everybody gets a trophy. It don't matter if you're terrible at it or not. I would have to tell my sons on a regular basis, Dad, look, we got a trophy we won. I'm like, no, you didn't. Let's be honest here, son. Y'all lost, and y'all lost bad, right? But the difference is when I grew up, you knew you lost. You didn't get a trophy. Either you went home and you cried and you got better, or you gave up. But you didn't waste your entire life doing something that you're passionate about that you were very good at. See, passion's great. We should have passions. Anybody who know who Dave Chappelle is? Dave Chappelle loves music. If you were here when he did the thing at Target Center, after his concert or his film, he had all these artists come up there. He got up there and he sang and did all these things. That's his passion. It's not his gift. His gift is comedy. Too often we want to get in lanes that ain't ours. So how do you know if it's your gift versus your passion? Ask these questions. What am I good at? What do people tell me I'm good at? And the hardest question, what's holding me back? Now, this question is tough because that could be your family telling you what you better be, right? I mean, that's a real thing. That could be society saying that title's not big enough. It don't pay enough. But if you don't get real honest about the thing you do better than anybody else naturally, you may struggle finding any success in a career. You know, one of the big advantages of me running retail stores for 20 years is I got to watch kids go through college. And because I had this dude, this white dude help me, I wanted to pay that forward. That white dude is my mentor, of course. I felt compelled to pay it forward. I would get kids that are going to school to get their MBA and all kinds of things, and they were lost. And they were just doing what they were told. Doing what they were told because this may look good, it's a title, it feels good to have my parents happy, but are you happy? I had one young man who both of his siblings were both becoming doctors, and he was having an identity crisis. This person today is thriving, but I remember that conversation as he's in my office in tears, feeling like a loser, feeling like a failure because he works in retail. And I told him, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? This job wasn't going to be in retail, but what do you want to do? What's authentically you? And now you got to find the courage to tell your family back off and live your life. He did that. That's a hard thing to do. That gamble paid off big. He is thriving. Thriving. This idea that we all have to be the same and be sheep is absurd. Your gifts are yours. Nobody else, they're yours. Given by God. You lean into them, you will feel the difference. God forbid you find your gift and it's connected to your passion, because then you find real purpose and you could change the world. It's just that simple. But to not use your gifts every single day in your job is like having a one-handed fight. You already got to do all this other stuff you got to deal with, but not to play in a space that you do better than anybody else is crazy. But yet we do it. And then we wonder why we're not having success in our career. It's because you're not in the right career and nobody wants to have the real conversation with you. See, a real mentor will tell you that. Hey, it seems like you hate your job. I don't understand why you do it. Oh, you know, this pays a lot. Okay, well, that's a terrible answer. It's a terrible answer because you're not happy. So as I look to wrap this up, because I know it's after lunch and you guys are at that point, I can see it in your eyes. Doesn't matter how much my voice fluctuates. You're like, Hal, we going to sleep. You ain't stopping us. Fine. All right. So 70,000 thoughts a day go through your mind. 98% of those are repeat thoughts. I'll tell you why I share that. You have to learn to quiet the voices. You have to. They'll make you doubt yourself and doubt doing what it's really for you to do, that only you know. But that thought in your brain over and over again is stopping you possibly from taking the step that requires courage. The next thing is find your bucket. By show of hands, if you don't mind, since you're all tired, who has a mentor in this room? All right. For a show of hands, who mentors someone in this room? Last question, show of hands, who sponsors somebody in this room? All right. Finding your bucket is really important in your lane. And it could be all those things, honestly, and maybe should be. You know, I would say the best mentors are the people that are where they want to be because they have capacity. Not that they're just comfortable, but they have capacity for you, right? They're where they want to be, ambitious wise. They're like, I'm good. Like, not that they're cruising, but they're like, I'm good. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And now they just want to give back. Man, those are great mentors. They really are. So find your bucket. And then the last thing I want to share is you are the author of your authentic career. You get to write the book. So I talked about the thoughts earlier. Here's my suggestion on this side. Get a diary. And for the next 2 weeks, write down every fear-based thought you have. Every one of them. Don't read them all at once. Wait. Just wait. Give it 2 weeks. And then go back and read it. And you'll see that what I said earlier was true. They're the same thoughts that keep playing over and over in your head. And right now you're frozen. You know what you want to do. You understand that it's scary, but it's those thoughts. And once you learn to say, these thoughts don't move me anymore, because you read them down, now they're real, and now you can do something about them, you might be surprised how you may change the direction and trajectory of your life. But to be in the wrong career, you can do all the tricks in the world, you're going to be stagnant because you're not playing inside of your gifts in your lane. That's all I got today. I know I didn't spend as much time maybe as I was supposed to, but I guess I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any at this time. Oh.
Awesome. It's on. Eric Jacques here. I work here at Target, and one of the questions that I have is like, oftentimes, like you find yourself like passionate about something, but you know it's not your particular gift. And sometimes your gift might be something like, let's say it's music, but you work in corporate America. Talk a little bit about that journey going from, you know, identifying my gift to actually living it out and like making it something that is gonna help you pay your bills and take care of your family.
I love that question, one, because I lived it. And I told you I spend most of my time in retail. Well, I'm in corporate America today, but really my focus was to help young people on a more regular basis. And I had left my company, I will leave the company out to do my own nonprofit, and I failed. But I learned what I wanted to do. I understood the roadblocks. I went back to Best Buy at the time as a general manager, worked my way from the stores, met people like Solomon. And as I networked more, opened up doors to corporate for me. And I became a director for Best Buy. Inside of that program, I got to oversee the teen tech centers. My passion is helping young people, and I fought my way there. But I think you have to have a balance of knowing that you got to pay real bills. I told you I have 4 boys. They all like Jordans, right? So you got to pay real bills, but at the same time, continue on your path. And I think part of that is just kind of right now, how can I do that, right? I know people that are in school while working. It won't be easy to course correct, if I can be candid with you. But nothing worth having is ever easy. I would tell you it's in those moments that you learn the most and you appreciate it the most. But easy is just not part of it. Not unless you did it when you were a kid. And the problem is when you're young, you just don't know.
Sydney Dennis at Target. I was wondering, what do you do when you have a very strong mentor and sponsor and then they ghost you?
Oof. I mean, I do have stalkers that I can connect you with to help track them down. No, I'm joking. Well, this is what I would tell you. I've never ghosted anybody. Not that I want to, my point of sharing that is this. I think that, I shared when you're finding a mentor, I asked, like, do they volunteer their time? I asked that because it seems like a very small thing, but it tells you a lot about a person. If they volunteer their time, you're not getting ghosted because helping other people matters to them. I made the joke that sometimes we pick these big elaborate people that have all these things, but when they get very busy, you're not a priority. It's just the truth. And we have to be understanding about their career and their journey and what they got going on too. And so sometimes I don't think that's the right way for them to sever the relationship, but maybe it's just time to find a new mentor and give them some grace. But sometimes people are just too busy and we just need to be honest about that up front. Even if they meant a lot to us, sometimes it's all giving for them and they don't have capacity anymore. So they got to figure out who they got to cut out of their lives. And that sounds cruel, but sometimes it's the reality depending on who you pick.
Actually, a very similar question. I was going to ask, how do you break up with a mentor when you feel like you're not on the same wavelength, or maybe you're not progressing in ways that you thought that they could help you progress in? So you kind of hit on it with that question, but if you have anything else to add.
I have a tricky part of that is you own your development and not your mentor. Now, if you're over them not sponsoring you, then you need to have a real conversation of how come I have not moved to the bucket where you're sponsoring for me? But if you made the plan, like you think about those first 3, what do I want to do? What's the time frame and why? If you brought them the plan, then you got to drive that plan. They're just there to strategize with you, to tell you that's a bad idea, things like that. But ultimately, they're not the driver. It's your career. And if they're just not involved or engaged again, or having regular sit downs with you, then you probably picked the wrong person. And maybe pick somebody who is in the career with you that you have something in common with that you think will value you more. And it may change things for you in that particular situation.
Hi, I'm Michael. What do you do when you are a person that has multiple gifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know your purpose, but now it's kind of like to niche down on one thing where, okay, this is where I have multiple gifts, but it's not realistic for me to pursue all of these gifts. Right. How do I niche down on, okay, this is what I want to focus on right now and move forward with that?
You have a good problem. So let's start there. Some of us want you to hand some of those gifts to us, please. No, on a serious note, what I would share with you is get a career coach. I would say if you have that kind of problem, a career coach will be perfect for you, because sometimes we need help to just kind of discern what direction we should go first. I'm sometimes blown away by people like Terry Crews is my example. The guy has so many gifts that you would know. The guy's an artist. He has all this stuff he does, but yet you don't know that because he leaned into the area that's got him the furthest. He also played in the NFL before. The guy is it doesn't stop. But again, he has tons of gifts, but the thing he does best is act. So I think, again, you can have those things. Sometimes they can be passion still, or maybe gifts that you just don't lean in as much because it's harder to get those things to be the best. Or maybe another area you stand out and you're more significant in that space.
When it comes to having mentors, I've been told it's wise not to put all your eggs in one basket and have like multiple mentors. What are your thoughts on that?
you know, I think there's some value in that, right? Depending on what you're trying to get out of a mentor. I can only speak for myself. I like really deep, meaningful connections. And I don't want multiple people telling me what to do or giving me advice. I get more confused and find myself like kind of struggling to get moving because there might be different opinions that both mentors have. And so again, I try to find one person for me that's really going to be always honest with me. And I feel like as I get the ball moving and we get some momentum, that the conversations change, they evolve. And so, but if I keep adding too many people into my life, it's tough. Now, I will share this. Seasons of your life can be different. I will say that as seasons change, so can your mentor, right? And maybe that's where you are at, is you're maybe at a different season, so it's time for a new mentor. And so be aware of when your season changes, that may not be the right person to mentor anyway. And so now you kind of break up with that person, not in a bad way, but saying like, I won't need as much time. I'm going to actually spend some time here because this person has something I need.
I'm hoping I heard you wrong. So my apologies in advance if I did. I believe when you get a mentor, I have two. One is the complete opposite. I'm an extreme extrovert. The thoughts just come out, only child, you name it, right? She's the complete opposite. But she's also a white woman who probably didn't have the same path as me. That's why she's my mentor, because I'm like, I want to see behind this curtain. I also believe it's very important to have a mentor who looks like you. And you said, why do we think our mentors always, my voice is shaking because I'm hoping I heard this wrong. And you said, why do we have to have a mentor who looks like us? And that way it may even stay professional. Can you say more about what you meant when you said that?
Absolutely. One, if you could find a mentor that looks like you, that is fantastic. And some of the work we are in, they're few and far between. They have a lot of problems with capacity because everybody wants them to be mentors. And so what I meant was a lot of times we'll have people who look different than us that have capacity and want to help us. So obviously, when I would hire diversity and inclusion, so when I would take over a store, it typically wasn't diverse. You saw this, Solomon. And most of the kids that I would hire looked like me because that was the right thing to do. And I mentored a ton of them. Matter of fact, the majority of them. But I also hired managers that looked like me as well. Now, flip side, capacity became tough. And so I would challenge them like, could your supervisor, who I think is wonderful, who might be white, mentor you in some of these spaces that are closer to the work you're doing on a regular day basis? Because I may only be able to see you once a quarter. And that's just not enough for your growth. And so maybe take this person on and I'll check in from time to time. I eventually moved to classes so that I could talk to more people at once, but capacity becomes a problem. And so sometimes we see somebody who looks like us, and so we pick that person. But the motivation and the reality of the situation is we don't see them enough times, and that relationship kind of fizzles out and can even make it feel a little weird. Because maybe now they're trying to avoid you. They don't want to have that awkward conversation, is my point. And being a leader of color that gets to that place, there's nothing more uncomfortable than knowing I've been dodging this person, ghosting them, whatever that is. And now I have to see them. And truth be told is I got no issue with them. I just don't have time. I just simply don't have time. And so what I was alluding to is be open-minded. Be open-minded. Mentors come in many shapes and forms and sizes.
I was just going to add a comment to Nicole regarding the mentor ghosting. What I've realized in my experience or relationships with mentor-mentees is that sometimes, even though they are mentors, does not mean they have it all together. They may be going through their trials that has caused them to, for lack of a better term, ghost. And so what I would recommend is maybe checking on them, and maybe it will be your opportunity to mentor them at that point or be a support, or also check with the mutuals that you have and see if maybe something else has happened for them to disappear. And then the other point is to kind of do a fine tie to the breakup if that's needed. I know it's funny with the word, but it's like any other relationship, right? We have some people that will not break up with you formally. Others want that closure. And so you'll have to find a way to do that. That's all.
Bianca, I'm glad you brought up Hal's point about people who look like you being mentors, because I too had a reaction, but it was a different reaction in that it sparked for me some memories of people who I went into, the relationship thinking they were going to be a mentor. and then it turned into a kiki, and then friendship, and then it had to, I had to bring more work to keep it professional and talk about career, and it just blossomed into a different type of relationship. So that's where my head went when you mentioned that. But
for me, it was expand on that because the statement.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
its own context matters.
Totally.
How that may hit a group that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
know,
And we all received it differently. Where that's where my head went. Your head went another place. But my question for you was,
Yeah.
how do you think about network mapping when thinking about how to build out your roster of mentors, mentees, sponsors, and just that activity that's gotten a lot of traction recently of network mapping?
Again, I love networking. It really depends on the person, in my opinion. Again, this has to be authentic to you. I think if they have commonality in what they're trying to accomplish, you can learn a lot of great ideas and find out openings early because of all these folks that you have inside of your circle. So that's being very strategic. And I think that's could be some of your plan that you build with your mentors. I do want to do some networking with purpose with people that are doing the same things as me. That's when it makes sense. Otherwise, to me, a lot of times when I ask people, why are you networking? They can't give me a great answer. That's a very different way of networking with a lot of purpose. And that's why it's grabbing so much traction, because for the first time, people are getting real results. I was thinking about somebody who goes to the gym and they don't know why they're working out or how to work out, and they don't know what a routine looks like. And so they spent an hour there, but they couldn't tell you they really accomplished anything. To me, networking could turn into that if you're not very clear and have a purpose of what you want to get out of it.
All right, we have one last question back here. Hi, my name is Janelle Austin, and I'm with the George Floyd Global Memorial. I have a community full of people who are brilliant, bright minds, a lot of experience. However, they struggle with mentoring. And I have a lot of young people who need the mentoring, they need the guidance, they have the drive and the energy, but I have potential mentors who frankly, they just don't know how to mentor. And it scares them or it intimidates them when someone's asking them to say, hey, can you give me some of you so that I can grow in this too? And so my question is, how do we build the skill set of mentoring and people who have, they have it, they just don't know how?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of people raise their hands that they're actually mentors. And I think you all find this to be true. A lot of it is trial and error. I think it's easier if it's something that you've done and accomplished, because you're more or less kind of helping them build a strategy that would work, that you know works because you've done it. Helping them understand, you know, what's the next step and why, or giving them advice of what helped you, who helped you during that particular job. So finding a mentor that has that same commonality of we're doing similar things. I used to do that job. Now I'm here. I can tell you what I experienced during this time and what helped me. I would tell you is the best place to start as a mentor. When you're trying to be a mentor and it's something that you don't understand and you're not the expert in that space, there are what I would say transferable skill sets you can share with somebody. They may or may not make sense if that person wants very tactical things that they should go do. In that situation, they'd be better off talking to somebody who does that work on a day-to-day basis. But starting with something you already know is the best way to start as a mentor, in my opinion. When I supervised, I would mentor the guys that worked underneath me, but it was doing the job that we already were doing, basically. And they were like, how do I sell like you? And so I started kind of mentoring them. I sell like this, I ask this question, and then I would coach them. And then that turned into a mentor relationship. And sometimes it was accidental.
Thank you so much. Let's get a round of applause for Hal. Hope you all took some good nuggets out of this as you think about your relationships with mentors and sponsors and thinking about your gifts and your passion. So thank you again for sharing your time today and your wisdom with the group. All right, almost at the end. What's the energy level at? Where we at? All right. Next up, I'm going to introduce. So as you know, TC Band is a collective from the Black Affinity networks across Minneapolis. Here at Target, our Black Affinity Network is called AABC, the African American Business Council. And next, see, we have a couple of, there we go.
And next up, we have one of our wonderful officers from Target, who's not only the vice president of property management, but also our executive sponsor for the African American Business Council. So day job is property management, but he volunteers his time to lead this amazing group of Black African American team members here at Target to drive some great stuff. So I'm gonna invite him up to the stage now in order to wrap us up. And here he comes.
All right, I brought my phone so I can keep notes. And nobody told me where to stand, but I'm gonna stand here because other people did it. Oh, there's tape, yeah. So the exciting thing is if you were up here, you'd know there's tape. First of all, I really just want to open by giving a big, massive thank you to all of the different presenters, panelists, and TC band, and then honestly, this amazing participative crowd. So can we do that real quick? So I'll give you a little bit about my background here. And I'll share that I started we'll call it 20-year career selling cell phones. And as like easy and fun as that sounds, that's exactly what I did. And I was having the time of my life doing it. I had very little goals. I had very little dreams. I was truly just trying to, as somebody mentioned earlier, pay the bills, right? And make sure that I could not foreclose on this house that I was really excited that I purchased. And so I worked at a company selling cell phones for a bit and was able to move up there and ultimately got to a place where I just felt like I had hit kind of my ceiling and I really wanted to do more and really started to think about what could my career look like and what might be possible if I thought about things a little differently. Around that time, Target reached out to me and I got excited because Target was a big company that I knew a little bit about, not a ton, and wasn't a place that I shopped at deeply, if I'm being honest with just us kids here. But at the end of the day, I got excited about what could happen and what might be possible. And so at Target, I started as a store director. I then moved, let's say running a $50 million building, then moved to a district senior director, packed up and moved the family, running, we'll call it a few $100 million, if you will, in that district. I then got to take on what I love to call was my dream job and became a group vice president. I had 10,000 people on my team running a $2 billion organization. And I share that was my dream job because at the end of the day, I was in this kind of like fake it mode. And I was just trying to tell everybody I really wanted X. I'm not 100% sure I was convinced that I could A, get there, and B, I wasn't convinced anybody would ever let me do it, right? And I literally share that because I think as I look at this room and become incredibly inspired by the actions, the stories, and again, all of the questions, because each of you are truly trying to find a way to develop yourself and trying to find a way to learn. And so today, I'm a vice president of our field property management, which like means nothing to anybody here, even some of the Target folks. So I like to share it as a very simple idea. Every Target store throughout the chain has a guy or gal who's running the building from a facility standpoint. They're trying to make sure the lights are on, the floors look beautiful, and nothing's broken. That's my team. And so to be able to do that for the last couple of years has been truly amazing because I'm not only doing my job, but when I got the job, I was really clear with everybody. I'm also coming to learn. I want to learn everything there is to know about Target. It's a business with 400,000 team members, and there's a lot happening. And so if I just stay in my lane, and I think Chris phrased it as getting into a different aisle, the chances that I learn everything that's happening just didn't feel high. And so this opportunity was a really magical one for me so that I could truly find a way to learn. and find a way to engage in a totally different way. And so as I've been in this role and maybe spent the last handful of years as an officer here, I would just share with you, it's been really, really encouraging to see what Target's been doing in terms of helping not only people of color, but especially helping Black people. You know, we talk about the African American Business Council, and I've got the esteemed privilege of being a co-executive sponsor there. But at the end of the day, we've been investing heavily for a little bit now. And I was just sharing at the table, our CEO is Brian Cornell. And if those of you who don't know, he's not Black. Anybody surprised by? No, okay, perfect. So at the end of the day, if I'm putting all of my energy and effort into just looking for a Black guy or gal to help me, it's probably not enough. I want to do that and figure out who are some of these other people that can add incremental value to me, to my cause, to my purpose, and then ultimately to the organization. And I was just having a fun moment, you know, just as we were having lunch here, sharing, we were just all out in DC, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, at the Executive Leadership Council, and think of it as a big meeting where the goal of the meeting is how do we help Black professionals get into these C-suite jobs along with become board members. And so our CEO got in front of everybody and said, I'd love to invite my team up here, but at the end of the day, the stage isn't big enough. And if you could, yeah. So if you can imagine standing in front of a room of Black people as a white professional and saying what we're doing, this stage is not big enough for me to fit my almost 28 Black officers. And as you think about what becomes really, really possible for everybody in this room is truly, truly to understand, how do I think about advocating for myself? How do I make sure I'm at a place that is listening? Or if I'm in a place that isn't listening, how do I share the story in some different ways, right? I think you guys heard a lot of different perspectives on, even if my immediate boss doesn't love what I'm doing all day, every day, how do I go around? How do I find some of those folks that I can partner with, that I can learn from, and that I can truly make an impact in? And so as I think about closing with you guys here, there's a couple of things that I really, really want you to keep in mind. The first one is each and every one of you came here today for your personal development. And I think that is absolutely fantastic, right? It's absolutely a really, really important moment that you truly should appreciate that you invested that time. Number two is that after this, we're gonna have a networking event. So if you don't use the wonderful people in this room to help you out, you're shortchanging yourself a little bit, right? So we'll talk about that here in a second. I'm going to show you a QR code and you're going to be very impressed. So yeah, just the build up for that. You should be excited. And the last one, and I really, really mean this, is that on Monday, each of you are going to go back to your jobs. You're going to go back to your work center, whatever it is that you do. I just really want to challenge you to figure out, how do you share that you were here? How do you share that you invested in your career? And then I was sharing with Chris just a second ago that one of the things he said that I couldn't more passionately believe in, and he opened with the idea of listening. And I would tell you, Eric asked me what has helped me throughout my career, and my actual answer truly was listening. And it was not only listening, but then believing, looking in the mirror and saying, at the end of the day, that guy or gal is right. Even if I passionately believe they're wrong. At the end of the day, if they're in a job above me, I have to view it as objective and find a way to turn that into action. How do I make sure that although they just told me something I did not appreciate, that I'm not told that same thing twice, right? And so if I can listen and then tell that story back, that's the unlock, in my opinion, for everybody in this room. Every time you do something, you take an action to make yourself better, you hear the feedback and then do something with it, make sure that you get full credit. And again, I want you to be in this meeting, which you've done. I hope that you're networking with your peers, which hopefully you'll do. Again, we're going to talk about the QR code and like the next slide, right? So like you're following me. But then number 3 is you have to be able to share the story. You invested in your career. Your boss needs to know that. Your peers need to know that. Your boss's boss needs to know that on Saturday, you were investing in you instead of hanging out, enjoying the gloomy weather that we have. Is that fair? You go to the next slide. I don't know how to do that, sorry. I told you I didn't even know I was supposed to stand in the box, so. All right, so the QR code that you've seen here, I've mentioned it a bunch of times. I really want you to use your camera phones. We all have, I told you I started by selling cell phones, and I spent a large part of my career convincing people you needed internet on your phone. So you're gonna use that. That is a chance for you to give us feedback. At the end of the day, every single one of us wants to get better. We wanna make sure that this event is absolutely top-notch and you're getting everything that you can and would like to see out of it. So while each of you are scanning the QR code and starting to fill it out, I'm just gonna say that one more time, and starting to fill it out so that that way you make sure that you get that done, I wanna walk you through the rest of our event here. You can see in this little chart, we're gonna go into the great room. For those of you that do not know what the great room is, there's really clear, easy signs. You're gonna walk out this door and keep walking straight. You'll see a big wall full of plants, or the plant wall that they mentioned earlier, and we're all gonna be there. So it's very, very simple, very, very easy. But truly a chance for you to connect with others, a chance for you to be able to win some great prizes. If you guys haven't been having a lot of fun with that, that's been really great. And a chance to meet some of the other speakers as well. Now, with all of that being said, while many of you are still filling this out, I have prizes to give away as well. I just didn't bring them up here because I wanted you to think I have 20. But would love to know, what are you going to take back when you get back to work next week? Whether it's at an organization, whether you're an entrepreneur, what is the one thing that you want to do different because you were here? You're faster than me, so I was gonna wear those shoes though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big fan of this. Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Michael. One of the things that I shared in my group when Chris was speaking is that I am not the best at taking notes. And when it comes to do my job, like I'll sit down and then at the top of my head, I'm thinking about what I have to do when I should have been writing it down, you know? So I know that when I have written stuff down, it has made me be more, have more clarity on what I need to do for the day. So I'm not like just doing random things that don't equate to me getting my job done for the day. So to your question, so what I'm gonna do better after this today, moving forward, is just like being very thoughtful about taking notes, you know, being very actionable in taking my notes, making sure I need to know what I need to do, and then taking actions on those. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamaal. I'm definitely gonna advocate for myself more, as I thought I was, but there's different ways that I've learned today of trying to fight for myself a little bit. Excuse me, fight for myself a little bit harder, and then maybe like communicate a little bit different and trying to get my point across to my boss.
Pass it along. One of the things that actually it's what we discussed here at the table, and she actually inspired me, was when we were talking about creating goals. I think one of the mistakes that I've made is I was like, oh, well, what does my boss want to hear? And then write the goals down. But as we were talking, I was like, I'm really passionate about X, what I do in my, my day job. And I was like, why don't I write a goal about that? Because I love that. I'm passionate about it. So I'm actually going to put together, I love doing project management. It's just so satisfying when it's done. But I'm actually going to go back and create a like year-long strategy. I do a lot with affirmative action. That's my fun, sweet spot, I guess. I love the regulations, and I want to do something about it based on our discussion today. So thanks to my table mate.
I love it. Thank you. Here's what I'm going to do next. Believe it or not, I'm going to pause us, and there's a genuine reason for it. Because as we go to this networking event, what would be the worst case scenario is if everybody just leaves, like you've got somewhere really critical that you've got to be. This is about your investment. So I'd love to hear some of these notes, and then I'd love for you to share them with some of your peers as we head over to the great room to make sure that we are truly figuring out how are we going to turn this moment today into future action. And again, how am I going to make sure that I'm going to share that action with many of my leaders, mentors, sponsors, all the people that want to know what am I doing to get a little bit better at my career. Sound fair? Perfect. All right. If we want to head there, I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Oh. I love it. She said, find her. Yes, find Karmin in the pink jacket. Thank you.